Regular Board of County Commission meetings. Today is Tuesday, May 13th, and it is 9 a.m. This meeting is called to order. Invocation will be led by Steve Burkowski of the Open Door Church of God, and pledge allegiance by Commissioner Harvey. Please stand if you're able to do so.
Good morning, commissioners, staff, and guests. It's an honor to be with you today, and I come as a pastor with deep appreciation for the work you do on behalf of the county and its people. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 11:14 that where there is no guidance, a nation falls, but in an abundance of counselors, there is safety. Your role as leaders and counselors is vital to the well-being of Putnam County. As you deliberate today, I encourage you to see this gathering as more than just a meeting, but as a calling to serve with wisdom, fairness, and a heart for the common good. May this time together, may this time together be filled with respectful dialogue, clear purpose, and a shared desire to see our communities thrive, from our smallest towns to our largest neighborhoods. Let's turn our hearts to God in prayer. First, let's take a moment, Father, and recognize the tragedy of yesterday, the family that suffered the house fire, but a greater loss than that. We ask you, Lord, that in the coming days that you will bring peace to this family, those that love them, provision for every need that they have, and guidance in the days forward. Heavenly Father, we come before you today with grateful hearts, thankful for the blessing of living in this beautiful county and serving its people. We ask for your guidance upon this Board of Commissioners as they deliberate and make decisions that shape the well-being of our communities. Grant them wisdom beyond their own, discernment in every matter, and clarity amidst complexity. Help them to listen carefully, speak thoughtfully, and act justly. Where there is division, bring unity. Where there is uncertainty, bring peace. Bless all who labor for the good of Putnam County, our public servants, first responders, educators, business leaders, and every citizen. May this county prosper not just in material ways, but in spirit and in the strength of its people working together. We ask all these things with hope and faith in the name of our Savior and Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge to our great country.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd also like to remind you that agendas are at the entrance room when you're walking in on the wall, along with blue comment cards. If you'd like to speak, please turn them in to Miss Ashley at the front. All right, Commissioners, we have approval of the minutes from the meeting April 8th.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move approval of the minutes from April 8th.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're going to recess the Port Authority. I'm sorry, we're going to recess the BOCC and call to order the Port Authority.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move approval of the Port Authority regular minute meetings, April 8th, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item B, lease extension. Good morning, Mr. Sullivan.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. You have before you a lease extension request from Victoria Marine. Their original lease on the warehouse, this is the warehouse closest to the water, was approved by the board on July 11th, 2023. The clause included 3 one-year extensions. They are requesting at this time to activate 2 of those one-year extensions at one time. Their lease expires in just July. If you have the opportunity to go by and visit them, you will see it is a craziness of activity there. They have parts of boats. They are constructing vessels for many local and not so local partners. This is what the port is supposed to be in some ways, and they have been fantastic tenants, and staff recommends that we authorize the extension.
All right. Are there any questions for Mr. Sullivan? All right, I have one question. So if we were to extend this lease, it would not impede what we are trying to do as the county moving forward as far as timeline?
Absolutely not. This will not impede any of the improvements planned. We work with them on that. As you know, we are about to start the design and engineering for the bulkhead and construction. This would not affect that at all. They
All
would
right,
work
and-
with us.
And they've been good tenants.
Correct.
All right. Back to the board for a motion or discussion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that we authorize your signature and grant the extension to Victoria Marine lease until 2027 per the terms agreed on in the original lease agreement.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
you.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on Port Authority items? Public comment on Port Authority items only. All right, general discussion from the board. Or is there any general discussion from the board? All right, with that, we'll close the Port Authority meeting and reconvene the BOCC meeting. Presentation by Commissioner Newbold.
Good morning, thank you. We have some representatives from various historical societies in the county, and they have a proclamation to bring before us that I guess I will come down and participate in the reading of.
Thank you.
Okay, how about that? This one does not adjust, does it? Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, Putnam County Proclamation number 2025-028, recognizing May as Historic Preservation Month. Whereas local historic preservation is an effective tool for revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for all Americans of all ages, all walks of life, all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it's important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that shaped us as a people. And whereas the Fruitland Peninsula Historic Society, the Putnam County Historical Society, the Interlochen Historical Society, Historic Melrose, and other community groups are participating in Historic Preservation Month during May of 2025. And whereas the Putnam County community as a whole has embarked upon numerous commitments to preservation, historic and archaeological surveys, nomination of significant cultural resources to the local, state, and national registers of historic places, the protection of traditional neighborhoods, the integration of historic elements with redevelopment, and the recognition, rehabilitation, and restoration of historic properties. Now, therefore, the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners proclaims May 2025 as Historic Preservation Month and calls upon all the people of Putnam County, Florida, to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognition and participation in this special observance. Done, ordered, and adopted this 13th day of May 2025. Presentation for you guys to just formally, I guess, would we
I need you to make a motion.
and I guess that's up to me too. I move that we accept this proclamation.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess we'll do
You're welcome to say a few words if you would like.
Hello, I'm BJ Laurie from the Fruitland Peninsula Historical Society. I'm the vice president. Our president is actually right here, Commissioner Newbold. But I do want to thank you guys for this. This is our 4th year celebrating National Historic Preservation Month here in Putnam County. And this is Nicole Grace from the Putnam County Historical Society. We've been working together on things. We were really excited this month and this year that we got to present or unveil the first historic marker in Crescent City of a new program that we're going to be doing every year in May, putting a new historic marker out. We were recognizing the Hubbard Morris House, and it's a beautiful marker that we had the unveiling of, and so it's really exciting. So we'll hopefully invite you guys down next year when we have a new one to put up. So But it's really exciting, and I appreciate you guys.
Well,
Thank you.
very good. That's exciting. All right.
Thank you.
Y'all are welcome to come up for a picture.
Yeah. And there's some other people here.
Yeah, anybody who's with the Historical Society, please come up.
How are you?
Mr. Crown, come down here and make me look short.
All right, 3, 2, 1. And another. All right.
All right, next presentation is Proclamation 2025-028, presented by Commissioner Pelletier.
Mine says 2-9.
Oh, 29. Yes, sir. If we could have representatives from Veteran Services and any veterans who would like to participate to please come forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If it wasn't for our veterans, where would we be? They are very important to us. Putnam County Proclamation number 2024-029, Memorial Day 2025. Whereas Memorial Day is a day of solemn remembrance for the men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to our nation, and whereas throughout our history, brave individuals have answered the call of duty, placing their lives in harm's way to protect the freedom and the values we hold dear. And whereas on this day we honor the memory of those who gave their lives in defense of our country, and reflecting upon the courage, selflessness, unwavering commitment to duty. And whereas we express our deepest gratitude to the families of our fallen heroes, recognizing their sacrifice and resilience, and offering an unwavering support of solidarity. And whereas we as a nation, we renew our pledge to never forget the sacrifices of our fallen heroes, to uphold the principles for which they fought, and strive for a world of peace and justice for all. Therefore, be it resolved that the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners proclaim May 26, 2025 as Memorial Day in Putnam County, and call upon all citizens to observe this day with reverence and respect, honoring the memory of our fallen heroes, reflecting upon the profound debt of gratitude we owe them. Done, ordered, and adopted this 13th day of May 25, Board of County Commissioners, Chairman Leota Wilkerson. Madam Chair, I move that this proclamation be
Approved.
moved.
Second, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
If anyone would like to say anything, you're welcome to come to the podium. I think Mr. Donnelly wants to say something. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commander.
Thank you. On May 26th at 10 o'clock in the morning, we're going to have our annual Memorial Day Parade in Palatka. The parade will start at 11th Street and go to the riverfront. We have the American Legion, the Veterans of Foreign War, submariners, the 993rd Army Reserve coming into the parade, along with Q.I. Roberts Band from the high school. So we should have a nice parade. After the parade, we will have a ceremony at the memorial down in the riverfront like we do every year with the speakers and stuff. And then afterwards, if anybody wants to, the American Legion Post 3345 Bird Hodge will have open house. The Veterans of Foreign War Post 3349 will also have open house starting at 12 o'clock. There'll be food at both of them, and the public is invited. Thank you, Commissioners, for all you do for the veterans.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you
Thank you.
very much. Would y'all like to come forward for a picture?
We could get someone on this side. All right. 3, 2, 1. And again. All right.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
That's okay. That's what we do in the world.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Palacier, and to all our veterans. We hope that you can participate in our Veterans Day Parade. The next item has been pulled. The sheriff deputy is not able to be here today, so we go on into item D, James Moore, presentation of our fiscal year 2024 audit.
Good morning. I'm Brendan McKittrick, a director with James Moore and Company. Brendan McKittrick. They're going to help me load the presentation real quick. Hi, good morning. So I'm Brendan McKittrick, director with James Moore and Company. I'm accompanied by Zach Shalfor. He's the partner on the engagement as well. He presented last year. He's given me the opportunity to present to you all today. I'll be using the presentation or the PowerPoint to summarize the items we're talking about today. Before we get into the presentation, I did want to thank the commission for the opportunity to perform the audit again this year. Also want to thank the constitutional officers and their staff for all their help, as well as Matt and Ryan in the clerk's office. There's a lot of work that goes into these financial statements, so really want to kind of give them credit. As you may remember, we were late with the audit last year, really wrapping up procedures in July. There was a big push this year, obviously, to get it done. So we were able to finish our procedures in March to issue in April. So obviously, again, want to give them a lot of credit for getting us to this point. One thing I like to remind the commission is that these financial statements are your financial statements. However, there are some reports that we include in here as audit reports. The first report being the audit report in the front of your financial statements, this was where we express our opinion over the reliability of those numbers in your financial statements. We do have what's called an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion. It's really kind of the best opinion we can provide over a set of financial statements. The second report, the single audit report, internal control and compliance report, since the county did have expenditures related to state and federal grant, over $750,000 were required to do additional procedures and include an additional report. You can see here that there were no findings with regards to that report. The third report, the internal control and compliance report. So as part of our process, we're required to look at your internal controls and understand it with respect to the financial reporting process. And again, if we had any issues that we had identified, we would communicate that in this report. Again, no comments in that report either. And then the fourth report, the Chapter 10 550 report or Auditor General report, again, some more required communication that the Auditor General asked that we communicate. There is a section in there, if we did find issues that maybe weren't internal control issues, but recommendations for improvement, we can include in there as well. Again, no recommendations noted in there. And then the fifth report, the examination report, just indicating that you're in compliance with specific state statutes. So I mentioned earlier the constitutional officers and, you know, how much work they put into it. You know, did want to remind you all, we do issue 6 separate reports that are included in the set of financial statements, and this is really a summary of any comments that we had with regards to those reports. And again, you can see that we didn't have any comments with regards to material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, or other recommendations. This is a summary of your general fund balance over the last 4 years. And again, your general fund is your main operating fund for the county, just showing the different kind of categories or classifications that you all have. Biggest change here is that assigned fund balance. Again, that's more related to your budgetary process. And overall, the total fund balance did increase if you're comparing to last year. About $6 or $7 million, again, mainly related to some of the ad valorem dollars that increased this year. So looking at this, what we do is we take those assigned and unassigned fund balances and take as a percentage of expenditures and transfers out. And what we'll compare it to or benchmark it against is the Government Finance Officers Association recommends a minimum of 2 months or 16.7%. Think of that as a floor. So you don't want to go below the floor. You all are at about 40.1%. And the other consideration we like to, talk about is just, we are in Florida. We do have hurricanes. Obviously, in the event of emergencies, you want to have some funds to be available to address any of those emergencies. There are FEMA dollars out there, but if you're familiar with FEMA, it does take some time to get that money back. So again, that 40.1% is kind of in line with what we would want to see as well. Moving over to your enterprise funds, so this again, just looking at your unrestricted net position for the 4 funds, obviously the new fund being the St. John's Harbor Water. But just kind of looking at the changes from year to year, again, no big changes here. What we like to say for enterprise funds is this is half the picture. The other half is, making sure you all invest in the infrastructure for those enterprise funds. That being said, you had about $9 million in capital asset additions. So again, in line with what we would want to see as well with regards to the enterprise funds. And then some other highlights, your other governmental funds, overall fund balance of about $46 million, up from last year of about $8.4 million. And kind of noting on that third bullet, just indicating we didn't have any exceptions with regards to any restricted funds, as part of our testing that we do over those funds. And then lastly, the net pension liability. So there is a rather large liability that's recorded on your financial statements related to your Florida retirement system. Again, we like to highlight this because there's no budgetary impact related to that liability. And really, when we think about the budget, it's just the required contributions you have to make from year to year, which you obviously do as well. And with that, I'll stop and open it up to any questions.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
thank you. Could you go back to the general fund where the 40.1%, and you made a comment there that the floor is 16.7, but based on her, and then you made one comment, and I didn't catch that that's kind of what you recommend?
Funds for hurricanes, I think is mentioned.
Yeah, so with what we do is the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association, provides a recommendation for that 2-month floor. Generally what we like to say is that's the floor. We don't want to go underneath that, but we also want to acknowledge we are in a state that experienced hurricanes, and we do have instances where we need funds for emergencies. Obviously, there is FEMA that's available to get funds to help with disaster recovery. Unfortunately, FEMA is slow to generally push those funds out. So we want to make sure with all of our clients, we're not pushing too close to that 2-month threshold, again, just to make sure that you're able to address any of those needs that you might have.
I just don't want the public to think that we're holding on to money that we should be spending. Even though it looks like a large amount of money, it's really there for us to be very mindful and very cautious with the public's money. I remember when I first got here, we were in I don't know how many years into it, but we were borrowing money from our landfill, waiting for FEMA reimbursements to come in. And it was very slow. So yeah, it was, and thank God we had some reserves in there, but you're right, it took it. And one other thing I'd like to ask, if you don't mind, this net pension liability number, I mean, I face that in every organization I belong to in the region, and we all know that $69.4 million that we're carrying is not an accurate number. It's just a number that if everything blew up, that they would ask you for this back, but we'd blow up too at the same time. So it's not a true number, so I don't want anybody to think that that's a liability, that, because some of these other, like the regional council, they're carrying it, but it's not a real number. It's just I mean, it's a number, but
Well, and that's why we like to address the fact there, because again, if you were to look at the financials, you see that rather large number.
Right.
Again, it's more of a practice of what the standard setters tell us to do.
I get it.
Again, we don't always agree with it either. It's
No.
just one we want to address that and again, make sure.
Well, I
you're
mean,
aware of it.
everything would have to go haywire. The whole system would blow up, and how do you expect to reimburse if that happened? It just would not take place. So, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the board? From staff? Clerk Reynolds, would you like to say something?
Yeah, just real quick, I'd like to thank Brendan and Zach and Allison and Farah, their whole team, as well as my team, Ryan, and the entire finance department and all of my staff, as well as county administration. You know, we worked really hard this year to bring it in on a better timeline than last year, and we did, and I'm very proud of that, and I'm very thankful to James Moore and staff for that, so.
Yeah, I am too. I wanted to say thank you to staff and to James Moore and Associates, because this helps us make better decisions earlier
Correct.
on, and so not being pressured so much to try to make them at the end, and that's never the best kind of decision-making, so thank you
Yes,
for
ma'am.
that.
Also, just real quick, I'd like to point out, you know, the 0 findings for all constitutional
Yeah, I was
officers.
gonna do
That is
that. Thank
something
you.
that I am very proud of. My office didn't have any, but that's also something that other constitutionals as well as the board should be very proud of.
Yeah,
so.
I agree with that 100%. I think we've come a long way, and I'm very proud of everybody for that. Commissioner Alexander?
This is my first exposure to this, and as Brandon was saying, the 16.7% being the floor, and with us sitting at 40.1%, that makes me feel very comfortable. The worst thing you can ever have being in business is playing catch up and not having the readily available funds to be have the ability to act quickly. Granted, you know, we all understand FEMA's there, but that's pretty impressive, especially in today's economy and what we see with other municipalities and other counties. So I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, and to Commissioner Harvey's point, it wasn't that long ago that, and it wasn't on our side as much as it was on the state side, that we were waiting on federal dollars. Was it up to like 18 months, Administrator Suggs? It was a while. And whenever you're out millions of dollars waiting on that refund, you got to have it available to spend for our citizens.
Yeah, we have a responsibility to maintain that agility to be able to act for our citizens.
That's absolutely right.
Because they're the ones that are going to suffer ultimately,
Yeah.
and it's our job to protect them.
Yes, sir, you're right. All right, with that, thank you for your presentation. I don't think we have any other comments or questions. Thank you so much for being here today and for your update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we appreciate the rapidness of this. And then, Clerk Reynolds, did you want to mention that we also have done the financial report? Do you want to mention that now? I know it's probably in your closing marks, but since we're here.
So the financial report to the state, the AFR, yes, all of that would have been submitted when
But we have them available for anybody who wants to look at
oh,
those.
yes, absolutely, yeah. These are printed and will be posted to our website. I'll make sure that county gets it and gets posted to the website. I believe there's a statute that requires us to do it, so.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am, it'll be
Thank
open
you.
to the public.
That's
Thank you.
not the CAFR, right?
It's the ACT, yeah, they call it the
That's the
ACT, they
CAFR.
changed the name, yeah, the ACFR, not the CAFR, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. All right, next we have up Rick Paul from Small Business Development Center with an update on the Small Business Development Center activities.
Good morning, Commissioners, staff, folks.
morning.
Rick Paul, Small Business Development Center, 1100 Reed Street. Just wanted to bring you up to date on some of the things that we've been doing. In your packet, you should have a blue email that looks like this. This happens to be the state's totals for last year. If you look down toward the bottom, in 2024, over 100,000 hours of consulting time through the Small Business Development Center in the state of Florida, over $300 million in capital secured, or over $700 million for government contracts, roughly 20,000 jobs, $3.8 billion in increased sales, and over 1,000 businesses. The state of Florida has been #1 in small business creation for at least 5 years. And I think these numbers, I don't have the other states yet, but I think we're probably right up there, if not #1 still. Second up would be a University of North Florida regional report for last year. This includes, this is an 18-county area that runs from Nassau County to St. John's through Putnam over to Cedar Key and then up the east side of the Suwannee River to Hamilton County and then back to Nassau. So 32 million in capital raised, 191 new businesses, 38.4 million in taxes, and that is pretty good numbers. Then I'm not sure, do you guys have this one here? You've got that one there? Okay.
No,
So there actually a mistake or two on here, but this is a fiscal year. So it started October 1st through March 31st of this year. And then that just shows the work that I've done here. So for me, it's 2.55 million during this time frame as far as capital raised. Lots of events I've been holding. Actually, they missed one on here, but we will actually have the Small Business Administration again very soon, and I'll get into that. But they've been here twice so far this year, and they're missing the second one on there. So we've held, or I've held 7 workshops already this year, and I got 2 more I want to talk to you about soon. The next up is what all these numbers mean. You should have what's called a success story, and this is a really cool deal. These 3 gentlemen, a father, a son, and then a trusted colleague got together and formed Sunshine Rail Service rail cars. So they repair rail cars, and they do that here in Putnam County. They have a contract with Seminole, and in this story, you'll find out that they started with 0 sales. Right now, they're up to 1.3 million and 10 employees. While I was writing the story, they got another contract with Seminole for 2 million, and they're in the process of buying 100 acres with rail spurs and expect to have 50 employees within 5 years. And those employees will be very high wage employees because they're welders, and welders are in demand. So right now at this point in time, with a re-emphasis on manufacturing in our country, I was just talking to our regional SBA administrator on Friday about a potential loan for them, and this qualifies nicely. So hopefully that will go through soon. A couple of the workshops coming up. One is the SBA is coming back to town. The SBA has been spending a lot of time in Putnam County, so that's a good thing to help our small businesses in the area. You should see a flyer for SBA disaster prep. We all know what happens. Thankfully, knock on wood, it doesn't happen to us too hard versus the coastal communities and so forth. But that would be a very good one for the public to attend and small businesses. The Piece de Resistance is going to be the last flyer that should be in there, and that is a small business social. I've been holding these throughout the time since I've been here. I had 2 of them last year. This will be the big one for this year. Very excited to bring together what I consider everybody in the corridor. So if you look at the corridor, we're east to west traffic, mostly, not north to south. So we have the county has agreed to show up to this, the city of Palatka, Hastings, Crescent City, town of Willaca, and Interlochen. I was hoping would be here, but I don't think they will, along with lots of supporting and business resources. So we have attorneys showing up, we have lenders showing up, insurance agents, real estate people. We got the SBA coming back again, lots of marketing and so forth. So this should be promoted as a one-stop shop for small businesses, to encourage the small businesses that are already here to stay here and to grow, and to encourage other people who are thinking about moving to Putnam County to, that we've got a great business environment here, and to welcome them. So hopefully we'll have a really good turnout on that. The last thing I would like to mention is, I don't know whatever happened, but it would be nice if somewhere on the county website that we had a link to the Small Business Development Center. I don't know if that ever got put forth or not, but that would be very helpful as to where people could click on that link and then see what our latest events and offerings are. In the fact that, I'm here to help with all the business consulting that you can send my way.
That sounds good. I'm sure we can get that link down, link loaded up. Not sure what happened, but first let me say, Mr. Paul, thank you for your presentation. Great story about the rail service. I didn't even know that, so this is news to me, and this is the kind of stuff we should be working on, and I appreciate the collaboration between you and the chamber and the county and the city and everybody working together. I have been to one of your networking events, and they are very helpful. There were people in the room there that day that I had never met, and you think you know and you don't know, right? And so I appreciate everything that you're doing. Can you tell the audience and us where your office is now?
Sure, I'm at 1100 Reed Street, which is the Putnam County Chamber of Commerce.
Yep, okay, just making sure. Are there any questions for Mr. Paul or any comments?
Thank you.
All right, very good, thank you. We
Thank you,
appreciate everything.
Commissioners.
We did not get that one slide that had the pie charts on it. Mr. Paul, we didn't get the one that had the pie charts on it, so if you'll just give that and we'll get some copies. That's the only one we didn't have.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Ride Solutions. Mary Carmen. We're just looking to get an update since the last time when Mr. Thompson was here as to what you guys have been working on since last time, because we had asked him some specific questions.
First of all, thank you for having me here. I apologize, Boy couldn't make it today, so this is me, Mari Carmen Beltran. I'm the Director of Operations for Ride Solution, being with Ride Solution now for over 5 years, or almost 5 years. So since the last time we were here, we are proud to announce that we have resumed a partial service for City Bus, which was very much needed thanks to a small appropriation we received from the City of Palatka. We are actually being able to resume the transportation within the city 2 days a week for 4 hours. It's not even close to what we used to have, but at least it's much better, so people don't have to walk. Our first month of service was a high success. We were able to reach 50% of capacity if we compare it to the last few months where we had full city bus service. The city of Crescent City has approached us to see how we can work with them to resume the intercity service that we had before, running from Interlaken all the way to Crescent City. We have made a short study about how to resume State Road 17 corridor from Palatka to Crescent City. It's a little bit more expensive and more difficult to reestablish just because that route is probably 4 times as long as City Bus in the same amount of time. We're still gonna continue to work with them, and hopefully, depending on what happens when the state legislature resumes session, our appropriation is still open in the Senate. So if we can find a way to have that appropriation approved, that was the one where you so kindly gave us a letter of support the last time, that will allow us to resume full service in the city of Palatka and the county. We have also been working in the redesign of our bus depot. That was a project that was actually approved by the state approximately 2 years ago, and I do want to thank Mr. Alexander for actually allowing us to contact Scott Knowles in the county's engineering team, who has been working with us in facilitating some of the technical issues with our appropriation and with our design contracting. So that's what we have for today. If you have any other questions, I'll be more than happy to respond to
Sure,
those.
one of the questions I think that we had asked last time was, were you able to start a voucher program yet?
No, we don't have a voucher program yet. Right now, we're still charging $1 per trip. We do have bus passes that we make available for those who want to buy them, and we're considering discounting some of them for like Heart of Putnam and actually some of the other organizations that may need to supply transportation.
So that was one of my questions. So if like somebody wanted, you guys are working with a homeless coalition?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if somebody wanted to sponsor somebody, so to speak, if we knew that there was somebody in the community who had a need to get back and forth to work or get back to their doctor's appointments, could an individual or a nonprofit or a business come down and buy a bus pass for
Yes,
somebody?
Yes, and actually some organizations do buy them, yeah.
So you can do, what, like a $30 one? I mean, you can put any dollar on it, or how does that
Our
work?
service is $1 each way.
Right,
So a month pass will really not be the best way to handle it. What we're doing is we're just selling the $1 bus passes on a per day basis, and we could discount them for those organizations.
so we can't prepay for somebody? is
Yes,
what
you can.
Oh, you can,
Yes, you
okay.
can, but we will give you passes.
Okay,
So each time that the person boards a vehicle, they will just give one of the bus passes to the driver. Yeah.
okay, all right. I just would think that's a big, excuse me, I think that's a big opportunity for not only your organization, but for the
Yeah,
people that need
Christian
it.
Services actually does buy them.
Okay.
And there's another organization in Crescent City, I'm sorry, I don't remember their name right now, that actually buys bus passes for some of the homeless in
Yeah.
the South Putnam area.
Yeah, that's very good information to have. All right, thank you. Commissioner Harvey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last time Boyd was here, we had that conversation about the voucher. I went back to my church and talked to my pastor about it out in Interlaken. And, you know, our church would be willing to put up some money to buy vouchers, and even go as far as to say maybe put up a sign that, you know, sponsored by our church, whatever, if we needed to, there at the Hitchcock's Plaza. So I think that faith-based organizational that's out there would be really beneficial to your organization. I mean, I'm sure if our church is willing, there's many more that would be willing to do that to help out the less fortunate get a ride back and forth to work and then help somebody else down the road. So I think that's available, so if you want to get with me later, email me.
Absolutely.
I'll be glad to get my pastor and you together, but I think that's a good way to sprout out and get those vouchers going. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Alexander, you're recognized.
Good morning. How are you?
Morning.
Good to see you again. Have we given any more consideration to, I know it's a bad word, it's probably a four-letter word, but increasing the rates? You and I had talked about that previously, and you know, my big thing is seeing organizations that are moving towards more self-sufficiency and not relying on appropriations from the government. So
Yes.
All costs have increased, and we can't continue to carry those increases. Some of that's going to have to be pushed down the line, and to better serve, you know, our folks in the community.
Yes, as a result of having resumed city bus service, we have considered it. The first step will probably to resume fares in our intercity transportation into St. Augustine and Gainesville, which right now, post-COVID, has been free. That is our feeder route to Greyhound, and we service those areas 7 days a week, 365 days. So once we resume that, we will consider to raising probably to a $2 fare each way for both city bus and for transportation disadvantage, which is probably one of the services that some people in the community do not know about. We receive a grant from the Center for Transportation Disadvantage, which allows us to provide transportation for people that qualify for disability, low income, or over 60 years old. And probably more than 50% of the Putnam County residents do qualify in one of those categories. Those trips right now are $1 each way, and we will consider to raising them to $2 each way.
So you're saying the fare on the feeder route is free currently, or was free at the time?
Intercity.
But to travel to Gainesville from
Gainesville, St. Augustine,
to get on the Greyhound bus?
And Jacksonville,
To get on the Greyhound bus at their terminal?
And we connect with the main Greyhound location in Jacksonville, and then we also go to what used to be the old Greyhound depot
Yes,
in
ma'am.
downtown St. Augustine.
Just
and the
trying-
new depot in Gainesville.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand that, you know, so I assume that their Greyhound ride is not free.
No,
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
we do sell Greyhound tickets.
I understand, but we're providing them a free service to get to a bus that they are paying for.
Well, if they buy a ticket through Greyhound, we do get reimbursed from Greyhound.
That's what I wanted to know. That helps me a lot. Thank you.
So it sounds like the bus passes is a good option for people
Yeah.
to help with those in the community. I know one of the things that Commissioner Harvey mentioned and the other time that Mr. Thompson spoke was putting up some kind of a sign or pick up and drop off sign at the bus terminal, at the bus locations, because like out in Interlaken where he's given an example, and I know the times change, I get that. So if you put it up today, the board could change it another week from now. So that's probably why you don't have a time up. But what about, I know that you can pull up your website, and when you
Yes.
pull up your website, the bus schedule's there.
Yes, it is.
Is there a link or a QR code or something that maybe we could put, even if it's just a plastic card that says, scan this and it gives you the bus schedule or something? Because I feel like there's a missing link between the people who need the rides to know when and pick up and drop offs are throughout the community. I'm not criticizing, I'm just making a suggestion.
I fully understand. Our website needs probably to come to the 21st century right now, yeah.
Well, and I found the bus schedule online, it was no problem, but then if you're somebody just coming up to a bus stop, how do they, I mean, I don't know, I just feel like there might be a link there. And then, one of the things that the county has done for your organization for many years, apparently, has been providing some subsidy or some funding every year. And so what I'd like to see in the future is that we work together on what the deliverables will be for that. Some kind of an agreement in place to where at least you come up once a year and give us an update, how many people you're serving, what you're doing in the community. I'd also like to see some community outreach as much as you can. I know you guys are small. What do you have, like 4 people in your office?
There's 6 of us in the office plus the drivers.
Yeah, so I know you have a small organization, but getting out to, like Bread of Life and some of the organizations where people are really, I mean, they have 50 to 100 people show up every day to get food there, and so it'd be nice to see if you guys could help connect with them or other organizations in the community about the bus schedule. So just some ideas that I had. But yeah, so we just want to work with you in the future and see what we can do to help you. And then you'll work with Julianne or somebody on our staff to come up with some kind of an agreement for the future.
Perfect. We'll be more than happy to come next month and give you ridership information on a more formal basis if you would like us to.
I think maybe, I think that's what Mr. Thompson did earlier a couple meetings ago. So we don't have to have you every month, but maybe once or twice a year would be great.
Okay, not a problem.
All right, thank you. We appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Mary Carmen, we would like to present you with the check, this year's check.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. If you will get a picture.
Can you get down there?
Three, two, one. And 1 minute. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Next, we have Lori Parker from HR for Employee of the Month.
Good morning. The Employee of the Month for February 2025 is Hannah Fowler, and Hannah is the Customer Service Rep for Public Works. JT?
So Hannah, as soon as you come into our office, she is immediately on your right. She does a fantastic job with all of our citizens that come in to pay their water bills. I've heard her up there before calming residents down, helping residents answer questions, helping them with their bills, getting them on different payment plans. She does a wonderful job, is always a smiling face. Appreciate everything she does, including helping with my Reba. So again, just congratulations. You do a very good job for us, and I wouldn't want anybody else at your desk. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, BW, let's go.
Board, your whole department's here. Hannah, congratulations. All right. I'm not standing behind you. Some of y'all gonna have to scoot down a little bit.
How you, sir? Good.
Hey, it's Hannah's moment to shine.
That's right.
Don't move, Julianne. I'm gonna.
Fine work, Sarah.
She got the money.
I know.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Y'all need a ladder?
Okay.
All right.
Congratulations, Hannah.
Thank you for your patience during these times. There's a lot of great information that we were able to share today regarding several organizations and things happening in our community, and we appreciate that. Next, we have the Planning and Development Public Hearing. Commissioners, I would like to request that we pull item B. I just don't think this ordinance is ready for, this LDC text amendment is quite ready for prime time yet. I'd like to pull it. And I'd bring your attention to page 65, where it talks about staff received a request to include some provisions within the proposed amendment addressing temporary seasonal RV occupancy. Staff respectfully cautions the BOCC from adopting such measures as the implications to the individual and adjoining property owners may create nuisances and/or health and safety hazards. So I feel like there's a couple things that need to happen before we move this forward. One is I've asked Zach to look at what other counties are doing regarding this situation in RVs on private vacant land, and also I think we all need to look at the code book to see if we are utilizing our current codes to the best of their ability. So I'm just not ready, but if you're ready, it'll be at the board's pleasure. So that's my thoughts on.
Madam Chair, do you need a motion to withdraw that, or just?
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we withdraw the LDC text amendment part of our packet today.
And we'll put it on another board item. It's not that it's going away, it's just moving it to another board item.
I second that. I truly feel that it's not quite ready as well.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any comments from the board? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item B's been pulled from the agenda and will be moved to another. With that, are you ready for rezone? Item A.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This, for the record, Michael Graves, Planning and Development Services. This is REZ 25-000001 for a rezone for Miss Kathleen Kelch, requesting a zoning map amendment from Agriculture Estate Plan Unit Development and Residential 1 to Agriculture Estate on an 18.14 acre parcel located at 205 St. John's Drive in Palatka to establish consistent zoning that allows for development. The surrounding zoning is a mixture of Agriculture Estate and Residential 1 currently. The subject site has a future land use designation of rural residential, and according to the National Wetlands Index, wetlands layer and the FEMA flood zone map on the GIS reference map, the lands do not appear to contain any wetlands and is located primarily in FEMA flood zones X and X500 with a small portion of FEMA flood zone AE. Should the applicant's request be approved, the parcel will be eligible for building and site work permits consistent with single-family residence adhering to the agriculture estate zoning district, as well as any other developments allowed by right in the agriculture estate zoning district. Here you can see an aerial overview of the property. Here's the future land use. Here's the zoning. And it is staff's recommendation to approve the requested amendment of the zoning map from Agriculture Estate Plan Unit Development and Residential 1 to Agriculture Estate. Staff finds that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the adopted comprehensive plan and meets the locational requirements of the Agriculture Estate zoning district, provided in the Land Development Code and Comprehensive Plan. In the March 12, 2025 meeting, the Putnam County Planning Commission unanimously voted to recommend approval of the same request. Any questions?
This is our second reading. Is there any questions from the board? Are there any public comments regarding this rezoning? All right, seeing none, back to the board.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the rezone REZ 25-000001 Kelch ordinance number 2025-011 and reading by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. With that, we're going to take a 3-minute recess. Convened. We'll be going into our consent agenda items. Public comment on consent agenda items. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It is not reasonable to expect that the board will engage in debate or deliberation about matters on which the board has received no prior information as part of the agenda. Please limit your time to 3 minutes. Public comment cards are conveniently placed at the meeting room entrance and should be submitted prior to the meeting to the deputy clerk who sits to the right of the podium.
And Madam Chair,
Yes.
just because I may have heard you wrong, I thought you said public comment on consent agenda items.
Yeah.
It's public comment on all agenda items.
Okay, public comment on all agenda items. Thank you for that correction. So with that, do we have any commissioner who wants to pull consent agenda items? Starting with Commissioner Pelletier.
I have none.
Commissioner Harvey.
I have none.
Commissioner Alexander.
I have none.
Commissioner Newbold.
I don't have any to pull, but can I get a quick
Sure.
question on one? This is the first time I've seen the unclaimed monies list, and that's a doozy of a list. And could somebody just let me know what falls into that and what happens to those funds?
Sure, I think that'd be Clerk Reynolds.
So we're required to do this for the state of Florida. So anytime we have unclaimed money, say for example, we write a check, it could be a host of different reasons, like clerk checks, for example. Ours are typically like juror checks, you know, people that come in for jury duty and they get $15 a day. A lot of those checks can go uncashed sometimes. And after an extended period of time, a certain amount of time, if that money goes unclaimed, you know, that person doesn't come back in and make the claim to our office to claim those funds, then we're required to remit that to the state of Florida. And that's when you can go to fltreasurehunt.org, I think is the website. You can search for your name and you can find any unclaimed monies there. So all entities that do this, utility companies, everything like that, are required to do this. So, yep, it's just money that is owed to people that never claimed it.
Yeah, I expected to see lots of small figures like that, but when you peruse it, you know, there's, you know,
it'll surprise you sometimes.
There's 5-digit numbers in there that surprised me, but so it's housekeeping on our part that all this moved to the state. Thank you.
But it's more than just housekeeping. It's a whole host of things. It's utility deposits.
Yes, it is.
Is it abatement money as well?
It would be any sort of money that you guys or clerk's office, you know, because we manage both, but any money that is owed that we have issued they call it a warrant, but a payment that we've issued a payment for, once we've issued the payment, it's you know, an outstanding claim if they don't cash that check.
So I misspoke. So not utilities. That's
it is anything. So
Oh,
it could
okay.
be if they were getting a refund on their deposit from the utilities, and say they moved and the check came to the address and they never got the check, it goes uncashed. That's unclaimed. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Unclaimed money. Yep.
Okay, thank you. So nothing being pulled. I would like to pull item G.
Item D.
G as in good.
G is in good.
Today's a good day.
Madam Chair, since no other commissioners pulled any items other than you, I'd like to approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, D, E, F, and H.
All right, we have a motion on the floor
I'll second that.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, the reason I pulled item G is for discussion purposes. So this was, go ahead, come on up, Mr. Stout. He explained it in his summary. Basically, there was a problem with the billing system, and unfortunately, water meters were read 7 days later than usual.
Correct.
Right, for the month of March. And that's just caused a problem in the billing. And I know that I got some, being in St. John's Harbor, I got some calls. So could you just tell us a little bit?
Yeah, we're in the middle of a transition in our billing system to a new system with Neptune 360. Neptune 360 and AS400 didn't communicate as well as what we were hoping that they would. They're working out those bugs, so it's working out fine. It just caused us to read the water meters 7 days late. Unfortunately, what happened to many people is the reading of the meter 7 days later may have caused citizens to trip the 2,000 gallon mark or the extra 1,000 when they wouldn't have if we'd have read them on time. So in an effort to be as fair as we can to all of our citizens, we would like to reimburse the water and the water sewer customers what could have happened in their bill.
Okay, very good. I think that's the only right thing to do in this situation, and I appreciate that. And but I wanted to say that this is the kind of stuff that I don't know necessarily needs to come to the board, other than for information purposes. I feel like this is something that could have been administratively handled,
Okay.
but we've never given our administrator the authority to do that I know of. And so I don't know if anybody wants to comment to my left, but
We're both jumping at the mic.
okay, all right, go ahead.
I'll defer to Ms. Young.
Chair, the fee ordinance is something board passed, and so as we do next year's fee ordinance for those divisions for which you would like to allow for administrators to have the authority to make the adjustments, we can write it into the ordinance. But as the ordinance stands today, it is a board fee set by the board and controlled by the board.
Yeah, and I don't mean for clarity, I don't mean you can just change it at any given point. There was a reason that we needed to do this. This was an error on our part. So that's what you would say, even that would have to go in ordinance?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow, okay, you gotta love government. All right, that's all I have with.
Yes, ma'am.
With
And
that.
this will be, if approved, this will be moved to a credit on each account, not sending out an actual check to each citizen, but just a credit on their next bill for the amount.
Yeah, that makes sense. The calls I were getting from were St. John's Harbor, and they thought it was just for St. John's Harbor, but the reality, it was
everybody.
countywide.
Correct.
Everybody was on our county
On our
public
system.
system. All right,
Yes,
very
ma'am.
good.
Madam Chair, I move approval of consent agenda item G.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Madam Chair, excuse me. If I misunderstood it, I apologize, but I filled out a speaker card to speak to item number 9.
Yes, sir, we just haven't got to that. We're on item 7.
And I wasn't sure whether during your public comments, since the title says it's as to agenda and non-agenda items, if I was supposed to speak now or wait till 9.
Yes, sir, I was about to ask. I'm about to ask for public cards.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. You're just getting ahead of me, Mr. Holmes. Are there any public cards? Public comment cards? We haven't got to, let me see. I think you had 2? There was another? Okay, this was miscellaneous. All right, yeah, item number 9. Mr. Holmes, you're welcome to come forward. Yeah, you can speak now. We'll go ahead and make that happen.
I got it.
My name for the record is Don Holmes, Holmes & Young, 222 North 3rd Street, Palatka. I'm here on behalf of a property owner who, together with his family, owns all of the property that borders the parcel that the county proposes to purchase under item 9. That's John Browning and the Browning family. I'm here to specifically ask, my purpose is to ask that you continue this matter, item 9, or at least that portion of it that authorizes the actual purchase or execution of a contract to purchase the property. I'm not fully versed with the entire resolution at issue. I was only asked to appear in this matter very, very recently, late, because of, and that actually goes to the gravamen of my argument, my client didn't get notice or didn't have notice until only very recently. So I would ask that you continue any portion of item 9, that resolution that requests authorization or grants authorization to actually execute a contract for purchase. Be very brief. I only have 3 minutes. I think this is a matter that may require more than 3 minutes to discuss, but I'll try. First of all, I don't know exactly when this item was posted to your agenda, and I would like to ask when it was posted to the agenda and when that was communicated to the public. Item 9, resolution.
It was last Wednesday.
Okay. So last Wednesday, and it was communicated the same day?
Yes.
In what fashion?
It was emailed to all the Board of County Commissioners, and then it was posted as well on the website.
On the website?
I believe
Okay.
so. Is that
So
correct, Laura?
my client is an adjoining property owner. He believes that his interests, both as to enjoyment and value, will be adversely impacted by this proposed purchase if we understand the intended use to be to facilitate the expansion of the capacity of your wastewater treatment plant. Now, I understand that there are issues as to exactly what the property will be used for. Some of those issues may require a zoning change, but if I understand right now that it's only to be used for a spray field, that would require only a special use permit because the property is already zoned in agriculture, and your code under special use permit for ag allows for a spray field. The importance of that is twofold. First of all, if you decide and you authorize the purchase of that property for in excess of $1 million, that will be your last opportunity. This is my last opportunity. This is his last opportunity to have a public hearing in front of you regarding the use of that property as a spray field. Because if you purchased it and it's already zoned ag, the next public hearing will be in front of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. And that hearing will not even come to you in an appellate capacity, because if there's an adverse ruling there, it goes to the circuit court. So this would be his only opportunity to speak to you, his elected officials, his elected representatives, about his belief that this use will impact his property adversely. It's interesting to note that if this goes for a special use permit, the Zoning Board of Adjustment has to make written findings. One, that the use will not adversely impact the economic value of adjoining properties, and two, that it won't adversely impact or affect the use and enjoyment of adjoining properties. Those are huge, huge questions and criteria, which the ZBOA is going to be required to make written findings about. But in that undertaking, you're going to be the applicants in front of and to an appointed board, and a board that you appointed, and any appellate review will go to the circuit court, not you. So why should my client have the opportunity to address those same questions to the elected representatives who he trusts to make decisions that impact his property? And that's what he's looking for. I said I only got late notice of this. I was called yesterday. It's important for a couple of reasons. First of all, as I advised Mr. Browning, I have a relative who works in county government. As long as she does, I vow that I would never sue Putnam County government. So I told Mr. Browning the same thing when he contacted me yesterday morning. I won't sue. He said, I understand, but I'm in a bind. I'm out of town. I need somebody to at least come up and preserve my right to talk about this matter in front of the county. So I agreed to do it with understanding that some matters do have to be preserved, and whoever he might go to after me, if this matter continues, might not like or might feel that the things that I preserved weren't the appropriate things to be preserved in order for this matter to have a full review in front of the next body that might look at it. Now, let's not misunderstand anything. I'm not here to threaten anybody, but I was looking at my John Deere tractor this morning, and on the exhaust stack it says hot. It didn't say I'm going to come over and burn you. It basically was telling me, if you touch this, it's hot. You're probably getting burned. All I'm trying to do is tell you that there are property owners whose property directly abuts this property. My client being one, there's one to the east. And I would submit to you that I don't think they have had an adequate opportunity to inform themselves about what this matter entails and to address you with regard to their concerns. So I'm asking, not that you postpone as I understand the resolution, you're asking to have various studies done to decide whether or not this property is appropriate for the use that you want to put it to. Why shouldn't my client have the same opportunity to have studies done or to gather expert opinions as to whether or not those uses will impact the value of his property? I think it's only fair play. We talk about due process.
Yeah, Mr. Holmes, I mean, what you're saying is not true. That's not the reason for him at all.
Well, tell me then, help me.
Well, I mean, if you called me ahead of time, we could have talked about this, but I mean, the bottom line is.
I didn't tell you yesterday because my client's out of town and he didn't get any kind of notice. He didn't look at your website.
You could call me yesterday, night, day, you've got my cell, but.
What was I to ask you?
Well, if the questions you're asking now, I mean, you had 3 minutes, but you're way past that. Let me just help you out. Anytime a county purchases a piece of property, I advise all my clients to make sure that you do your due diligence to make sure that it doesn't undermine the value of the property. So it's not being done determined for the future use. It's being done to determine what the value is. And you're talking about making a record.
What's being done to determine the value?
Mr. Holmes, we're not going to debate this right now. You've had more than 3 minutes.
I'm just trying to answer your questions.
Okay, well, then I'm just going to interpose my objection that my client hasn't had an adequate opportunity to be heard. I understood that you were authorizing contract for the purchase of the property in excess of $1 million. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe there would have been time to have a more thorough vetting of this, but I was tied up in commitments all day long yesterday. So my client called me yesterday morning, and this is the first opportunity.
I understand the predicament you're in, but I mean, this has been talked about at various commission meetings where the need to expand that property in multiple meetings, even to the point where our chair was delegated as the point of contact just to look into it, because at that point, we didn't know if the property owner was even willing to sell. So all of this has happened in public with a pretty good amount of notice.
Since last Wednesday?
Long before last Wednesday.
Okay, well, unless, my understanding is that unless you can show actual knowledge of my client, then you have to rely upon the public notice. I'm simply going to lodge objections. I understand you don't want to hear additional arguments, so my objection simply is the matter shouldn't be considered unless it's deemed an emergency item because there wasn't sufficient notice. Secondly, I'm objecting to the amount of notice that was provided. And thirdly, I'm objecting because of my client's belief that his property interest, both value and enjoyment, will be adversely impacted by the county's decision to spend $1 million to buy something, the stated purpose of which is to expand a wastewater treatment plant on property that immediately adjoins his.
All right, so noted. Thank you. Commissioner Pallister, do you wish to say anything?
You know, we want to be good neighbors to our constituents, and nobody wants to be bowled over or run over like a bull in a small pen. I think it might be a good thing that we table this for now until we can look through it, and look at all the parameters of who our neighbors are on all sides, and before we impose a hardship on them that is going to maybe possibly devalue their property.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that we should at least hear this case. We haven't even really heard it. We haven't presented it. Mr. Holmes got up to speak first, and we have not presented this publicly. And I think we should at least, this is my opinion, I think we should at least go through the discussions, and then if we want to still pull it, we can, or if we want to table it, or if we want to, whatever the board pleases to do. But I think we should at least get to that point. With that, do we have Mr. Suggs, do you want to present anything, or do you want to make comments on item 9 for our new business?
Madam Chair, if it pleases the chair and the board, I'll wait till we pull the item 9 up for further discussion.
All right, let's get through, we're on item 8, we'll get through our code enforcement, fine reduction request.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Our very first case, we actually have 2 cases with the same owner, and he's here. If we could do both of them, do the first one and then do the second one after that, I guess.
However you'd like to proceed.
Madam Chair, is the applicant here? Any applicants?
Yes, sir.
For which one? The one,
The Michael Edenfield.
797 and 663?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Well, 797 and 380.
380, okay.
They're not in order.
Which is A and G.
Yes, ma'am.
A and G, is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You can present those together if you want.
Okay.
He's looking for you.
I understand you're looking to me, but is the applicant want to speak about this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So go ahead, I guess, and present it, right?
Yes.
Madam Chair? And let the applicant speak.
All right, the address is 302 Oakwood Avenue. Property owner's name is Michael Edenfield. The violation was unpermitted work. Permits required. The original fine amount was $67,643.50. Total cost of enforcement action is $1,619. Property owners recently purchased the property. It's now compliant and requesting a fine reduction. If the board approves, we recommend the reduced fine to be paid within 120 days.
Okay.
Go ahead with the second one.
Does the applicant wish to speak?
Mr. Edenfield?
Hi, Mr. Edenfield.
Hi. Okay, I bought the piece of property, and before I did, I checked with the county, which I've been trying to get something done with this piece. It's next door to my property. I've been trying to get something done for years on this piece of property, and I was told over and over it's going to be 30 days, 90 days, and nothing ever happened. And I've dealt with homeless, and I've dealt with feral animals. So I finally purchased the piece of property, and I did talk with the county before I did. And it turns out there were some hidden cases that they didn't know about. It's nobody's fault. It was so old that but when the case come up, then this come up. So I'm looking at way more than what the property's ever gonna be worth, just to get it cleared off and to get rid of the homeless people and the feral animals that I'm dealing with, and the trees falling on my property, destroying my fences. So I've cleaned the piece of property off. What I couldn't get done in 5 years, I did in 2 weeks. And now with these higher costs that I wasn't even aware of, or Mr. Moore wasn't aware of, that come up, it's just way more than, it's absorbent. And I feel like I'm being punished for trying to make things better instead of being appreciated for making something better. And really that's, what I have to say. I've cleared the property, I pulled the permits in 2 weeks, I got everything done, and I would like to move forward with it, but this is going to hold me back. It's a considerable amount for somebody that lives on way less than what that is. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Moore, the code case numbers ending 797 is for work permits without work without a permit. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. He remodeled the home without a permit.
Okay.
Mr. Edenfield did?
No, sir. The
previous
prior
owner.
owner, previous owner, and then in 2018 it burned down.
2018 it burned down, and there was another.
So then that was another code case for the burnt structure, and so he didn't pull a demo permit, and it just sat there, burnt for years. And then finally, Mr. Edenfield bought it, and he pulled the demo permit, and he cleaned the property.
So, Madam Chair, if I'm understanding right, we're hearing both cases, 797 and 380 at the same time today. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Madam Chair, I move that we, on codes case 380, ending 380, that we accept staff recommendation of $2,036 if paid within 120 days. And do you want to take that in one motion?
Yeah, take it in one motion.
Okay, so I make a motion of that.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. And Madam Chair, on codes case ending with 797, I recommend 0 enforcement action, $0, because of the other one being as large as it was.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Alexander. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Are there any other applicants in the room? Anybody wish to speak against anything? My apologies.
Madam
right.
Chair, seeing no one else is in the room, we'll go through pretty quick. On codes case ending 663, staff recommends $1,512. Actually, there's a surplus, so still owed is $1,489.05 if paid within 90 days. That's my recommendation.
All right, we have a motion on the floor
Second.
and a second.
I'm sorry?
B.
We're on B. We're on item B. We did A and G already. We're on item B. All right, we have a motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Madam Chair, on case number ending in 289, staff recommends well, this one's a little tricky, $2,804. There's some tax surplus Mr. Thomas, you want to recommend, Mr. Moore, you want to?
Yes, sir. I was recommending that this be wiped away because we received.
Can I address that?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
There was already a tax deed sale that occurred 2 years ago, back in 2023, and as a result of that, we received $7,988.99. We are past the point where we're talking about returning money to anyone that would have had a claim during that surplus deed. So at this point, Tom.
So we really should make that a 0?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I recommend on codes case 289, ending in 289, that the action is 0.
All right, we have
Second.
a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Madam Chair, on the code case ending 21, staff recommends here's another one. Is this the same?
No, but we did receive a tax surplus.
So they got, okay, staff
partial.
recommends paying $2,464.66 if paid within 90 days. That's my motion on case ending 00021.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, on codes case ending 291, again, this is still another one, still due at $2,317.22 if paid within 90 days. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's my motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All right. Moving forward.
380's done.
Madam Chair, on codes case number ending in 291,
The last one was 291, so for clarification, case number 2017-00291. Thank you. Go ahead.
we have two of them now.
Yes, sir, but I just clarified it.
Okay, so staff recommends $2,268 if paid within 180 days?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, that's my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. We did 380.
Now we're on
We done.
H.
Yeah. Okay, Madam Chair, on codes case ending with 00008, Stephen Cullen, staff recommends that we requesting approval for fine reduction from
We have a
used from the
surplus.
tax surplus. That's gonna,
It would pay it completely, yes, sir. We received $5,649.30, and the total cost of enforcement action was $2,012. So the rest we would have to send back to the clerk
yeah,
of courts.
so we accept that, we accept their fine reduction of $2,012 out of the $5649.30 that was we already have.
Yes.
That's my motion, Madam Chair.
All right, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sorry, was there any discussion on that? Okay, go ahead.
Madam Chair, ending in 673, case number, this is a simple one, 1926, is recommended if paid within 90 days.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Madam Chair, this is codes case ending in 631. This is another tax surplus. So we'll be taking our 1740 out of the 2594.37. Is that what I'm reading, right?
It would pay the total.
And that money will go back.
Yes, sir, and the rest
Okay,
would go back
that's-
to the yes, sir.
That's my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, going into item number 9, new business. Administrative purchase of property adjacent to the wastewater treatment plant. So what we had previously discussed was moving, having discussion with the landowner, and we did that on March 6th. We went up and discussed some options, and they've given us a purchase price based on subject to an appraisal. Seller shall pay its attorney fees and expenses to clear title. Buyer shall pay all closing costs. Everything's within your packet on page 260. This is not the purchase and sale agreement. This is the terms of which this adjacent owner would be willing to move forward. This property is surrounded on 2 sides. It's contiguous to our current plant on 2 sides. Mr. Harvey, would you like to speak first?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few questions about this.
Sure.
Number one, I'm glad that we have entered into a conversation. We all know how important expanding our wastewater is in this area. I do have a couple of questions, though. On the offer the email that was brought back to Mr. Suggs, it says number 1 line was subject to the approval by the Rainier Senior Management. I think we need to know if that has happened. On the purchase price, I'm still a little confused on subject to the appraisal. What does that mean? And then I don't like some of the 75% of surface mineral rights. I don't know all that. So I would ask Mr. Commando, you know, what are we getting? I like to buy the car and know that I own the car. I think that's just how I feel about it, but we do need this area. It's very important to our expansion, and well, go ahead, Mr. Commander, I don't need to. So some of the questions I have are that.
So there are a number of times where property owners, when they sell a property, will reserve the mineral rights. You see it actually all through our county, Clay County, Baker County, Bradford County. There are generally provisions that prohibit ejectment, meaning that they can't come in and tear down your buildings in order to avail themselves to whatever property rights are, but it's just one of those aspects of a purchase and sale that are often negotiated. Sometimes they can be bought out, but you're correct in observing that it's not complete fee simple ownership of the property.
Okay, to follow up a little bit on that, the purchase price, when we get to that point, right now we're looking at spending almost $1 million of county money to enhance our facilities out there.
175 acres approximately.
Right, exactly. But when we do our due diligence, what if we find that some of this area isn't suitable for what we need? What goes on? I mean, is this going to come back to the board at that point after we do our due diligence and see what our footprint looks like, or what do we want to use it for? Is that the area, the time frame that the public has to speak when they're doing due diligence? Tell me more about that process, if you don't mind.
So the public can speak at any point in the process. I mean, they can speak at meetings even when it's not on the agenda. They can come speak to you personally. They can send letters, emails, phone calls. But if there's something that comes up in a due diligence aspect, then at that point it comes back to you, because then you would decide whether or not it still serves a public purpose as to whether or not you wish to purchase, you as the county wish to purchase the property.
So if let's say, for example, that just pick a number of one of these bullet points that a commissioner or all the commission didn't like, is that something that would be tied up in our due diligence at that point?
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're asking.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is we're going to go forward with it today, or we're going to talk about this. This is the first time we kind of got this out there, so we're going to talk about it. My question is this ever going to come back to us and say, yeah, the 75% mineral rights, that's going to go away, it's going to go down to 35%? Or is this the offer now on the table and we can't counter offer it during our due diligence?
This is the offer on the table. You could counter offer. I don't know what the seller would look at that point.
Well, I mean, they're subject to approval by their management too. So
Correct.
This isn't the final that they're offering us, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That's
my
correct. So,
question.
yeah, if we were to enter into a purchase and sale agreement, of course, it would be subject to an appraisal and to approval by the Board of County Commissioners at a future date. The appraisal, subject to appraisal, is standard procedure for purchasing public lands. That's pretty standard in purchasing anything, and just into industry, of course. Mr. Suggs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things to address a couple of the comments that were made earlier today. I verified that the agenda went out at 3:42 on Wednesday afternoon, and prior to that, it also gets uploaded to the website. So notice of the intent to put this on the agenda went out as early as 3:42 last Wednesday.
Okay.
So just for clarification. And secondly, as we were over here discussing, looking at the GIS map, staff pulled up the maps, and it would appear the way the property is located and the potential purchase of the 175 acres, the majority, if not all of the property surrounding would still be owned by Rayonier. We're cutting a
Correct.
piece out.
Right.
We're not buying all the way to the property line. So there's still quite a bit of property that surrounds that purchase that is still Rayonier property.
All right, and can you, we didn't have a presentation, but could you or Mr. Grimes or someone over there explain to us and to the public what the purpose of this is? Give us why is it that we need this?
Sure. So as we were challenged by the board, as we were starting to reach capacity of the sewer plant, we were or wastewater plant, I shouldn't say sewer, wastewater plant. We were given the task to try to figure out how we could expand. We don't have a current reuse system at all inside the county, so I mean, that option's kind of off the table at the moment. You have to have an end user for reclaimed water, which we don't have. But we have been asked to expand capacity, whether through approval of you guys by development orders that require us to increase capacity in the sewer or wastewater facility. So we started exploring options. We are currently in our facility are limited to 300,000 gallons a day of treated effluent. I talked to Mr. Jackson last week. He had seen 180 to 200,000 gallons a day that had flowed into it. So we're starting to get into that upward capacity without any further development along the 207 corridor, some other projects that are happening in the East Palatka region. So we started looking around. It took us 6, 8, 10 months to get through the right chain to get into Rayonier. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for helping us get there and finding the right person to speak with. So we said, and I talked to Mr. Knowles, his best guess at the moment would take about 75 acres of land to make a spray field, okay? The purchase of the 175 acres came from a couple different approaches, right? So one of them being, we don't have a lot of green space in East Palatka as a whole. To go from a sports complex, you have to either travel to the Triangle Park and north side of Palatka or to the South Putnam Youth Sports Complex. So it gives us a little bit of future use, not only as a spray field or affluent, but we also could use it for park space. We could use it for trail space. We could use it for a multitude of things. I would never, in the day one, think we'd be anywhere close to that property line. I mean, the original goal, what we tried to work out was using most of it underneath the power line that is owned or leased by Florida Power and Light. So I think we had already, from our staff level, had already considered a buffer in the area. Nothing's really going to be added to their, I mean, the effluent treatment, if you were to look at the aerial map, if it was available, everything is designed to build away from that property. It goes the other way. So this would only be a spray field, much like the city of Palatka has. The city of Palatka entered an agreement on a 200-acre spray field right off of Lundy Road. You haven't seen any issues. You haven't heard of any complaints of that spray field, and it's been in use for 10 years. So these things are, they use them regularly. The golf course at Palatka uses it to irrigate the golf course. The Oaks Golf Course in Fruitland uses reclaimed water to water their golf course. There is a couple things, as Mr. Knowles has pointed out, some things you can't use it for. You can't use it for dairy cattle. You can use it for sod production. You can use it for hay production. You can use it for beef cattle grazing. There's a lot of things you can do with the spray field, right? We can't put it on human consumed foods. So there are some limitations. But I don't see us where we're going to have an obnoxious odor. I don't see where we're going to be a bad neighbor. The other thing we need to keep in mind is that property, since inception, since the prison was put there in the 50s or whenever it was put there, that property that the current wastewater treatment facility on was a spray field. It was a treatment facility from the prison. The prison had an in-house treatment facility that they treated their effluent at the prison, and they sprayed it on the current property where we are. So the use has been done on that existing land. So I don't see where we're going to make a huge impact to the neighbor. I wouldn't want it next to my place either, right? So that's why we said, 75 acres is all we truly needed by Mr. Knowles' best guess at this moment. But we could see some future needs for this county, whether it be green space, whether maybe it's a campground, who knows? But that would give us enough buffering area between the neighbors. And honestly, the rest of it for the next tens of thousands of acres belongs to Rayonier. And they were willing to sell it for that use and be our neighbor, right? And we own the other two sides. So that's kind of where we were. At the direction of the board, we are kind of in a spot. We are as large as we can get at the moment. We have a septic to sewer phase 4 conversion in Dunn's Creek that we have accepted money from the St. Johns River Water Management District to take this. That is going to put us at capacity when those 400 come in. So if we don't move forward with some kind of plan, my question to the board was what would you like us to do? Because this was a direction from you guys to have this. What is the step moving forward?
And to your point, this, if we were able to go forward with this, we would be able to then offer more options for our citizens that are existing in that community, in the East Palatka community and surrounding region, actually, to be able to take their septic off of the river, which would thereby reduce nutrient load.
That is correct. And I mean, we've got challenges out now by the DEP of nutrient reduction in Putnam County alone. It's going to continue coming down to us. So, I mean, at this point, we're just asking, I mean, from the deputy administrator of that division, I'm asking for a plan. You know, what can we do, right? Because we're kind of landlocked. We're at a position now. I don't want to kick I'm sorry for the terminology, kick the can too far down the road, because we're at a point now, the bid's on the street. We have a price back from a vendor to do septic to sewer phase 4. So we are starting to approach some of our limitations that we have in it, plus some other developments that the board has allowed to come on that we're going to have to take some of this affluent, or we're going to have to go back and change their PUDs and all that kind of stuff. So just looking for some direction.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Alexander?
Well, in my short tenure with the county commission, I have learned to not provide you guys with an unachievable task. That has been beaten into my head, to work with us and let's work together for a goal. So I agree that we have to take action. We have the expansion coming. As far as, I did some research prior to coming in, and the area that's highlighted underneath the existing easement is approximately 50 acres. So based on any no objections from FPL, we can accommodate most of the spray fields in that area. So that leaves only 25 acres of this other area that we would have to dedicate. And I don't know what type of ancillary mechanical equipment that we'll need within that footprint, but I imagine it's minimal at best.
Absolutely. So if you, we can take this one step at a time. So I mean, truly what I would see honestly on that is a center pivot irrigation, something very similar to what you see in the landscape that's go down to Hastings now, where they're growing potatoes and cabbage and vegetables, something very similar. So very low impact to the land. I mean, it's just the reclaimed water that we have to get rid of. I mean, it's sprayed at our college campus. It's sprayed at, I mean, we've had a hookup as far as the Francis Ball Field.
Yeah,
I mean, so we've making many steps where we're not in fear of the reclaimed water coming out. So
No. And I think that's an excellent use of that otherwise valueless property. I went so far as to speak with Zach prior to this and see what that property could actually be used for, and you can't build anything on it. You really can't do much, but just allow FPL access to keep it clean and nice, or it's a perfect place for a spray field. So, I mean, I want to commend you guys on that. You're being very strategic with that planning.
yes, sir. And when we talked to FPNL, they didn't have any objection as long as they could still have access to get to it. That's kind of why we got away from the ribs, the raised infiltrator beds that are there, is that doesn't give them a real good driving surface to go on. Otherwise, we could put some additional beds out behind there and have no equipment. But getting them underneath their power line would have been difficult. So our ask was, hey, can we do some land application spraying? And then they didn't seem at the time to have any objection to that at all.
Yep, yeah, that was my other question with
Commissioner
the-
Alexander, will you put that mic up closer? People can't hear you. Thank you.
We can't hear down.
It's every time. I'm gonna have to speak louder.
Yes, sir.
So, but no, my concern was, the corrosive nature of the effluent and if they would object to that, but it sounds like you guys have overcome that task. And it's also my understanding that once we expand to that point, we'll surpass that 1 million gallon threshold, which would push us into a point where we'd have to have the property rezoned as a municipal heavy usage, which at that point requires a 30-foot buffer and up to, in addition, a concrete barrier wall if deemed necessary. So, I mean, that might quell some of the fears of the adjacent property owner. So, I've been trying to do the research and make,
Sure, I agree with you. And I mean,
because nobody I wouldn't want that next to my property if my kids were there and I was gonna build a home. So I don't know what this particular property owner's future plans are for it. I would just ask that we were as conscious as we could be in making concessions to his future use of that property, and we don't potentially devalue that or limit, his use of it in the future. But I like what you're saying as far as the green space, and if I think if there was some way that we could guarantee that that would be, but I don't know how, you know, again, this is legalese and this would be a rich thing, but how would you tie it in that, you know, the baseball fields or the sports complexes would be associated with that area and not the waste treatment?
I mean, I would like to say one more thing, 'cause as we talk about this futuristic, right?
Yes,
So we could talk
absolutely.
about this as maybe, I hate to say temporary measure. However, and we could also, as time goes by, as impacts come into the system and potentially pay an impact fee into the system, we start a reuse program where that we run a line out to a incoming subdivision, or we're using it for that. And at one day, this potential spray field may become obsolete. We may not need it, but we have to have a backup plan for the days that it's the wet season or a hurricane came through and the place can't take any effluent.
100%.
So, I mean, maybe one day there's potentially a golf course in East Palatka, and I'm just hypothetically, there's nothing, I've not seen anything, but maybe they could use that reuse. Or maybe, I mean, down the road, if you think about it, there's a farm that just put a sod farm in on 11 or 1,200 acres that
they can use
they could use it, but it just happens to be across our county line. If we can find a sod farmer right there in the area that can
We
use
have
it,
to provide them with,
we
we
may
have to
never
provide security
truly
for
need
our
it.
desire to dispose of that, yes, no. And that's what I commend you guys on. Every time I say something about contingency, you guys have already pretty much thought it out. I mean, and the other day we talked about redundancy with this program. We have to have some type of redundancy, even if we get to the point where we run an effluent line elsewhere and we are a secondary user. We still need to maintain that spray field because times change. We have to have the security to be able to provide the services for our client. With that being said, we've negotiated this particular parcel that in essence is going to have to be carved out of two existing parcels. And the other properties surrounding that, are we stuck in purchasing that particular area, or could we shift it potentially? Because nothing's gonna change. We're still gonna take the usage of the easement because that's the obvious place to put the spray field.
So, I mean, the only thought when we originally thought the whole idea was if we don't include some land right there off of Gilbert Road, if we were to ever make a sports complex or anything else, the only access to the property at that point would be through or through our wastewater treatment plant, which is not a good idea.
No, we don't want that.
So when we looked at it, their potential easement road meandered kind of back and forth between that parcel, and that was one of the requirements that Rainier had asked us, is we still need to be able to have access to the remainder of the property, which is that's truly how they get to a large portion of this track is through that road that kind of comes down just beyond the power line there, and it works its way through. Not necessarily stuck, we would just kind of put that L leg in it just so we could have access to a complex of some kind or green space for true road access. I mean, because that's the last little piece that remained right there on Gilbert that we had, you know, them giving us access to.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And, you know, when people don't know that, so this is new to many of us commissioners because due to the Sunshine Law, we're not privy to a lot of the discussions that we had. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to explain that to us and explain it to the community. Because some of these questions you guys have already answered and know the answers to, but we don't as commissioners, and that may affect how we make our decisions. So I want to make sure that I've done my due diligence and asked these questions that may be presented to me from the community moving forward.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Suggs, did you want to go ahead and comment? I have a couple of commissioners that have lights on.
If I could just
Yes,
briefly,
sir.
I would like to commend Commissioner Alexander for those comments because he's absolutely correct. And I appreciate the fact that you come in and meet with us and ask these questions, so it makes it easier in here and you have the information that you can take back to your citizens because it does really, it helps a lot. But to Commissioner Alexander's comments, he's absolutely correct in the fact that when when your staff is given a project and an issue to deal with, we look at all parameters of that, as abstractly as we can. And one of the reasons why this property was looked at in particular, and the layout and the cutout of this property was for those very reasons, making sure that we weren't impactful on someone else negatively. And the fact that we would be able to have ingress, egress, not only Rayonier, Florida Power and Light, but also for future opportunities for your citizens here if we ever did something out there with some green space. So I do appreciate those comments. Staff appreciates them, and he's absolutely correct. We look at all of those parameters when we're trying to solve a problem. So thank you.
Commissioner Harvey, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just had one more question on that. So if we're cutting and carving and we're drawing the lines, obviously there's already a spray field. It's within a certain distance from the existing property. So do we reserve the right to manipulate that so that they could still maintain their access and potentially move our parcel a little bit further off?
May I address that?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
wouldn't call it manipulating the line. So we started with, like Mr. Grimes said, we started with something, and then we realized we needed more land if we wanted to, for the future of that area, for some green space, for some other things. And so I don't know that we're going to have, I don't think we're going to have an opportunity to go back and forth with Rayonier 3-4 times. I really don't. I think that we presented something, it came, and now this is them coming back to us. And so it does have to be approved. Of course, a purchase and sale agreement has to be approved, but this is, I don't know where else you would move the line, so to speak. So,
Well,
I think if we're going to, we either are okay with what we have in front of us, or if we're going to go back and say, well, we've changed our mind and now we want more or less, I think we have to do it now, I think.
I'm not asking to change the size.
Okay.
I'm just asking to move the square.
Move the square. Where would we move the square to?
A little bit further, on the other side of the easement. I'm just trying to prevent heartburn for the county.
You're saying south? Yeah.
Make me get my glasses back.
Get some Googles on. Go ahead, Mr.
Yes.
Grimes, while he's.
I just want to
I didn't know if we were
urge this
locked
with
in.
a little caution,
Yes,
okay? Because when we sat in the room with Rayonier, it was asked at that point, is this the same piece of property that we've been contacted by from the developers? So the answer to that is yes. So I think at some point we have an opportunity that if we want to control the destiny, we can. At some point, somebody else is going to buy a piece of property that they know it's for sale, and then they're going to hand it to us in a basket, right? So I just want to use that as a caution.
And then it would cost the county a lot more money.
And it would cost the county a lot more money because that question has already been raised when we were sitting in the office with Rayonier.
With that being said, if potentially this gets tied up in litigation, would that give another purchaser that time and that opportunity to come in and offer a higher price than Putnam County has pending the result of the litigation?
Well, if you're in the middle of a purchase and sale agreement, the purchase and sale agreement states the terms. And so the terms
That's what I'm
say-
asking, what the terms are, and if
Well,
it spells that
we
out.
We won't have that in front of us. We'll have that whenever, if we move forward today, the purchase and sale agreement would come back to this board for approval. So what this is this is basically, if you and I were in a real estate transaction and I said, you know, this is what I want, and you say, this is what I want, and then we say, okay, now we're going to put it in writing. So we're going to put it in writing in a purchase and sale agreement that then has to come back to this board. So once it's signed, the terms of that purchase and sale agreement are then, they're a legal binding contract.
So if we approve this today, we are committed to this parcel.
We are committed to a written purchase and sale agreement coming back to this board, right here as it says, shall be subject to approval by the Board of County Commissioners.
So have we done have we done a preliminary plan and perk testing to make
That's
sure
what
this
you-
is
That's
suitable?
what you have the due diligence period for.
So we still have to go through all of that
Yes, sir, we still have to go through that. We have
before
to.
this is finalized?
Yes, sir. We would definitely come back before this board, the terms of the purchase. So this is, if you and I were in a transaction, you saying, this is what I want. I say, okay, now let's put it in writing, and then that would then come back. So we do not have a purchase and sale agreement in front of us. We have the terms of which Rayonier has responded to us and said, this is what we want. And there are some things that it's subject to. It would be subject to an appraisal. It's subject to a due diligence period. We would do a phase 1 environmental site assessment on the property, which is standard. We'd have to do surveys.
Yeah, I looked at the
maybe a phase
topographical
2.
map.
All of those things that have to occur, we would do our best to get done in that time frame. So, are you good for now? Okay. Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what I'm hearing, and thank you for the conversation, I've got a lot of my questions answered so far. JR, Mr. Grimes, let me ask you this again, and I couldn't hear the answer as well as I wanted to. Well, no, it's not your fault. No, I just didn't get it.
I'll speak up, Larry.
No, it's not you, Commissioner Alexander. It's here's the thing, and I'll be very candid with you. I took a resident that lives out there that a few months back, and we drove up there and looked at this property, and just looking at the elevation, you're 52 feet above sea level at those power lines. Down at Yelvington Road, you're about 31 feet. So it drops off. We know it goes uphill pretty good up there. I need to know if we can use the land under those power lines. That's always been the question at hand. If we can use that without Florida Power and Light going, no, you can't, we've got an agreement prior to this purchase and sale, because that's what we're after. We're after the top of the hill up there. That's where we know where we got good quality height up there. So I need to know that, okay? Mr. Grimes?
Every indication, I'd kind of like to, if Mr. Knowles has an opportunity, because I mean, has a relationship in his past world with working with Florida Power and Light and a couple other, so I think I'd like to lean on him for the expertise in that particular question.
My only concern is us buying something that we're not allowed to use. That's the concern that I have. And that's a very minor one, but that's.
In the past, I have been successful in working with FPL in putting things like spray fields or retention ponds underneath their power lines as a joint use agreement with their easement. Not saying that it's 100% that we could use it, but all indications are that FPL would have no objections to us using it. We get a joint easement agreement with them. They allow us that use of that easement for those purposes, as long as we provide them with the adequate access to their facilities. They usually have no objection to it.
So, for example, if we did a spray field up there underneath the power lines, whatever that looks like, and we fenced it off and ran cattle, for example. Somebody contracted with us and we ran cattle and put fence up and put a gate up so they could get through their equipment. That would be, that's allowed inside that easement that FP&L already has established with Rayonier?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's done all the time, actually.
That's done all the time. I mean,
Not to be rude, I'm not trying to be rude, but what
I-
happens is, so you have, same thing with the water management, and when they lease land and it's affected like that, they just have multiple keys on the gate and they're able to access it. But yeah, we can work through that. And I think that would be during our due diligence period that we would resolve those issues as well.
So my final question then, so the purchase and sale agreement will come back to us.
Yes, sir.
At a time. When that comes back to us, it's going to be subject to the approval by the Rayonier senior management, and it's going to be subject to approval by the appraisal. If the appraisal says the property's less per acre, then that will be.
We have to take that into consideration.
That's
Yes, sir.
all I need to know.
Yes, sir, we would be, and, Mr. Commander, if you want to chime in on anything, if I'm not speaking correctly, but, yeah, so there, it says right here, purchase and sale agreement to be prepared by Rayonier's legal department. Now, I can assure you that Mr. Commando is also going to review that purchase and sale agreement before it comes to this board to make sure that our best interest is being handled. Do you have any other comments on that?
There's a lot of things that have been going on this morning. So to answer Commissioner Alexander's question about whether or not we could ensure that it's used for green space or a park, at the point where you own the property, yes, you can record a deed restriction that makes it in perpetuity a park or some other type of purpose that you see fit. There was some talk about kind of adequate notice. You know, as you all know, you sit in kind of two different type functions. You sit in the function oftentimes in a quasi-judicial where you make ex parte disclosures and you're sitting kind of like a court or a judge would. That's not what this is. The secondary way that you sit as a commission is as a legislative body. So your legislative decisions require reasonable notice, which was provided today, just so there's no confusion about that. And then, Madam Chair, as you discussed, it's gonna come back before for final approval, should we get to the point where there is a purchase and sale agreement.
Yeah. And one thing I know about real estate, and I know all of you all have had your own set of transactions over the years, if you don't do things in a timely manner, the next buyer will. Commissioner Palacier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with you about the timely manner, absolutely. I agree with Mr. Holmes in that, in my opinion, less than 7 days is not adequate notice. I'm just sorry, that's just the way I feel about it. You can giggle if you want to, Mr. Suggs, but that's the way I feel about that.
That is not what that was intended for, so I apologize if that was the context for which you thought that was.
But I think 7 days is not, less than 7 days is not adequate. You say we already boundary this existing property by 2 sides, is that correct?
Yes, sir,
Yes,
that is
sir.
correct.
This is us right here.
All right, where's the other 2 sides? Is that a possible option of a direction we might go, of property that could be purchased?
Well, one
Just
side-
say, excuse me just a second, just say that I'm very familiar with Gilbert Road is grossly understated. I know where Gilbert Road is and what surrounds it. I can't tell you anything.
yeah, so to the, be to the west side of it is residential property that I think the Gilbert family lives on. To the east would be the property that we're looking at. To the north is Gilbert Road. So, I mean, there's really, unless we try to procure the land between the Gilberts and the plant, which I wouldn't suggest, I mean, because that is also held by Rayonier, a small portion of it. I mean, we own some of it outside the fence, but that's the only buffering between the residential neighborhood and the current plant. So we are kind of in a spot where the only true access we can get in is on that east side without coming through the plant. We don't have a northerly access because that is the road coming in.
All right.
So trying to go across the road, it gets in, I mean, it's truly almost some wet property, which would kind of defeat the purpose of trying to do any type of percolation, as Commissioner Harvey had mentioned, that it was kind of rolling downhill there, and that property does get a little wet towards the Yelvington Road side. So we are kind of locked into that making access into that side without coming through our plant.
All right, next question. We're purchasing 175, give or take, and we're only going to use 75 of that, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that was the original, because we had originally talked about there's an 84-acre tract right behind the plant, and that's what the original thought was. But we said, you know what, maybe we do need some green space, maybe we need to think in the future of this piece of property. And that's where the additional 90 acres came from, which would probably be that piece on the east of the property. I mean, it would make much more sense for operational wise is to use the property coming out of the south to be, whether it's beds, whether it's a spray field, all that stuff's yet to be determined. Which one's going to work best in that situation. I mean, we'd turn that over to the professional engineers and let us know what the best bang for our buck is. But I mean, I truly never anticipated us having to talk about the spray field or effluent on the easterly portion of this property. That to me, from when we started talking about it, honestly, today can stay in trees, it can stay green space until we're ready to do it. I mean, my whole thought was if we could find somebody that wanted to produce sod right there, is let them start growing, you know, put some stipulations on them, tell them, say, hey, we want you to grow sports turf, Bermuda, right here on the side of the thing. So when the day does come that you want to put your sports complex in, the grass is already there, right? I think there's a long-term partnership we could enter. I mean, the farm does it right there at the city of Palatka. They grow sod every day right there off the side of Lundy Road. So I thought it was just a reasonable use of that property.
My next question, this is probably a question for the surveyor, but how many feet are we thinking that beyond our usable 75 acre parcel is it to the neighbor's boundary?
Just by just an eyeball look at the aerial map, Ms. Young can probably put a quick
I'm just
measuring
curious,
tape.
ballpark.
We can get you to a real close ballpark here in just a second, but I'd say well over 1,000 feet.
And it's surrounded by
3,192 feet to the closest property boundary from where we'd start our spray field.
3,100.
That's over a quarter mile.
That's
over half a mile.
And it's
2,700 at the closest. That's over a half mile of buffer.
From spray field to the actual property owner.
From what we would actually be using.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, based on what Scott was saying and the conversation that I had with Zach, that area underneath the power lines is about 50 acres. So we're gonna need an additional 25, based on Scott's estimate, just shooting from the hip, of additional property. So, I mean, you could probably get it done a lot cheaper, but if we're going to make provisions for future expansion and future green space for our communities out there, but, you know, obviously the existing property owners have rights too, so we have to be conscious of that. And it doesn't matter if it was here, there, or anywhere else. I wouldn't want that next to me right up button on my
I
fence line.
understand. I understand.
So,
Mr. Grimes and Ms. Young.
and you know,
have
if we had
helped
some
me
way to make provisions that
understand
we could guarantee that, I'm good with it. I wouldn't want that button up to my property.
Right, I understand. And so, like we've discussed, the whole property will not be utilized at first, and it's surrounded by Rayonier property. It's completely surrounded, other than the county's portion.
The best we can tell, when Ms. Young pulled up the GIS with the footprint that is currently on the agenda here this morning, Rayonier does own the surrounding property.
That's correct. So, there's trees there now. And I would say, regardless of how this goes, please, I didn't do it until recently, go out and look at this, facility. You will be completely surprised at how well it's being run and what we have already in place.
Yeah, they're doing a great job, and everybody up here at this dais knows that we need the expansion. We gotta make it happen. We just wanna make it palatable for the
Yes, sir.
community.
Commissioner Newbold, you're recognized.
Thank you. I appreciate the staff's foresight and ability to secure the possible purchase of the property. I think it's a good fit. I look at it from, you know, with my county commissioner's hat on, and, you know, I'm a property owner in Crescent City, and I'm sensitive to, you know, what could potentially happen next door to me. So I look at it both ways, and it seems to me the layout of the footprint that we're proposing to purchase, just, it makes good sense. It leaves enough buffer for adjoining property owners. Now, we have to commit to that as good neighbors, but it gives us plenty to work with there. I hear, or on the campaign trail, heard a lot of, hey, our neighboring counties haven't planned well enough for growth. They're behind the 8 ball. I think this fits right into our mandate to think ahead for growth for the future. It makes a lot of good sense. I think we can achieve everything we want with this kind of plan. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Mr. Grimes.
I would just like to say that we kind of broke it down as what Commissioner Alexander said. I mean, if we added the additional 25 acres, if by your numbers that you talked about, Mr. Baker, was 50 acres under the power line, and we carved another 25 out, the closest at that point would be is 1,882 feet from the adjoining property line, which is well over a quarter mile. At that point, if we carved out where it would make the most operational sense, right? Behind the plant, underneath the power line. I think we got a lot of opportunity there, and I think 1,900 feet's a pretty good buffer. You know, and if you guys put a restriction on it down the road that says, hey, we're not gonna develop within, you know, the fluent spray field's gonna be within X feet of the property line, okay. I mean, we're not there. I mean, by the time you max this facility out, as Commissioner Alexander and the staff talked yesterday, is we probably need to be looking at a redundant plant somewhere else other than Gilbert Road, right? So you could have an opportunity to shift, and maybe this isn't the final resting place for a long-term facility, but I mean, it's what we have at the moment that works, that's functional, that's buildable, that you can still build on, and has some room for expansion at its current location. As times grow and we get bigger, I mean, your larger counties, municipalities, whatever you want to say, have multiple plants, you know, so when one section goes down, they can divert the affluent flow into another place. You get much more than 1 million gallons a day of affluent flow, you probably need to be looking for somewhere else to send it in case something was to happen to that particular plant or a portion of that plant, so that you don't hit that 100% capacity into an area to where we have the operational ways to move things. We have to plan for our future, because our future's in front of us. If we're not putting those moves out there, we're going to be like the other counties that made mistakes. And some of their mistakes were they let the developers put the plants in, and then the counties had to go back and overtake them, as we've seen in 2 instances in this county.
Yep.
I think that's a bad precedence to set, to let the developers come in here and put the cheapest possible plant in there and then get the best use out of it, and then hand the keys over to the county. And then we're required to go put $1 million worth of infrastructure into it on the backs of every taxpayer in this county. And then what? At least, right? And then, I mean, I think we have to look at these things, and I mean, it's the easiest thing today is for the developer to just buy the plant and just, here's the operation, but somebody's got to take it, and I think this board is well aware of what happens when somebody walks away from a plant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're still paying the price for that.
Right.
Commissioner Alexander?
Thank you, Gerald. With what you guys have told me regarding the ability to do, for lack of a better term, a deed restriction on the placement with the site plan of what we're gonna use the property for and where it's gonna be put, that helps me out a lot. Thank you, guys. And I applaud you for the foresight. We all know that it's coming. We don't wanna end up like Alachua County or St. Johns County, and we don't wanna assume the ownership of the failing standard systems, because we've already been to those meetings and had to, tell the client or the constituents why it's like it is. So it's not a good position to be in. I thank you, guys.
All right, anybody else? I know we had a commissioner take a break. The only thing that I would say regarding our offer is I would like to, if we were able to move forward, do a due diligence period of 90 days, if that's possible. If it's going to be a make or break, then I would say that that's fine. We'll stick to 60 and ask for an extension. But I am concerned that the amount of due diligence that we have, we might not be able to do it in a 60-day period. That's my comments, but I've got to get a commissioner back to the board. So at this point, we'll take a 3-minute recess. Meeting. Just for clarity, this agenda item is on the website and electronically, but we're all old-fashioned and we like to see paper. That's the way we roll. Anyway, back to this item, administrative purchase of property. So we have discussed this. My comments are simply that this is good growth management. I know a couple of you guys have talked about that already. And this is about building a future for our community. We have to have opportunities for expansion in that area. Expanding capacity in that area for our wastewater is a necessity that we're going to have. So with that being said, back to the board. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, am I allowed to ask any further questions for clarification or make any further comment?
I'll allow you, yes, sir.
Very quickly, do I understand, and make sure, do I understand that if you vote to move forward today, that will not be final decision to purchase the property?
It'll be based on whatever the recommendation is, whoever makes the motion. So that motion has not been made yet.
Okay, so the motion will determine whether or not this is your final decision?
Yes, sir, that was true.
Okay. All right, then, all I will say is that you had a great discussion up here, very intelligent, very informed. I only wish that my client had had the opportunity to participate in that before today, or even fully today, which he didn't. 3 days' notice is not adequate notice, with all due respect, in our opinion. Having said that, we hear you when you say that it's possible, if you're only going to use 50 acres under the power line and 25 more, to use a small portion of this property away from my client's property.
Correct.
It's possible, but the whole idea is that he has to trust you and all future boards to do that on your own. He doesn't have the ability to ask for any safeguards or sureties from his perspective, or any of the other property owners. And finally, I guess something that's painfully...
I think he may. It depends on what the motion is. I think he may.
He may. And what finally I'll say is that it's painfully obvious that some more conversation might have produced some clarity, in that I just got a call from my client who indicated that he disagrees very much with the contention that he doesn't have property that immediately borders the tract that you're buying. I don't know if he's right. I don't know if you're right. But it is his firm contention, based upon the map that he has of the property you're purchasing, that he borders that property on its northern boundary. I don't know. But that's the kind of conversation that could be had, had there been a conversation before this reached this point. So with that, I have nothing further to add.
Thank you. Do you have that map in front of you?
I can only rely on GIS. I do not have legal property records. GIS reflects.
Property appraiser's office is what you're looking at.
Yes, so GIS indicates that there is a 100-foot piece of property owned by Florida Gas Distribution, thank you, Commissioner Alexander, that is immediately adjacent to the parcel line that's proposed. And then on the other side, so that strip that goes through is the client's property line according to GIS. But again, I do not have legal property records. I have GIS mapping.
All right, that's fine. Thank you for the clarity. Commissioner Alexander.
To Mr. Holmes' point regarding the planning and use of that property, if we were to set in some covenants regarding the property, would those be maintained in perpetuity, or is that something that can be changed at any point, at any time by future commissions? I guess that'd be a question for Mr. Commando.
It depends on what the restriction is, but generally those, especially ones that deal with parks, green space, those things are generally in perpetuity.
And when you purchase land for public use, it's for public use generally. And also, another question, Mr. Commando, since we see a need in this area for future expansion, if we had to go down the road, and I'm not recommending that we do, but do we have the ability to do eminent domain? And I'm not saying that we are doing that in this situation. However, do you understand my question?
I do. I mean, there's always an ability to proceed with eminent domain. It's just at least in my experience, it's unburdensomely costly.
Sure.
There's not a benefit to doing it that way.
Right, and so and that's not something that we want to do, but I just want to make sure that, you know, when we're talking about utilities, usually when you have needs for utilities, they have the ability to do some things in the future. All right, so with that, we're back at the board. Is there a recommendation?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the staff to negotiate the buy-sell agreement and engage in preliminary action steps needed to ensure the land is suitable, surveys, environmental studies, and other related services needed to fully vet the land to ensure its suitability for the county needs, with a 90-day due diligence, and bringing that back before the board.
So subject to approval by the Board of County Commissioners.
Correct.
For the purchase and sale agreement. All right, we have a motion on the floor.
I would second that.
We have a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving on to public comment on miscellaneous items. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It is not reasonable to expect that the board will engage in debate or deliberation about matters on which the board has received no prior information as part of the agenda. Please limit your time to 3 minutes. Public comments are conveniently placed at the meeting room entrance and should be submitted prior to the meeting to the deputy clerk who sits to the right of the podium. Thank you for your patience in this. We'll hear from Connie Benham. If you'll come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Thank you, Ms. Benham, for being here today.
Sure. My pleasure. My name is Connie Benham. I live at 117 Musket Drive. First and foremost, ma'am, you remind me of Lori Boyer up in Jackson. She rocks. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Okay, look, first, I want to thank you for the VSO, the Veteran Service Office that's over here, that the county pays for.
Yes.
I'm grateful because they have really come through for me.
They've made a difference in a lot of people's lives. Thank you.
Do
for
you
that
know there's
recognition.
there's 7,000 vets in Putnam County?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Listen, so I live in the St. Johns River Estates, and you guys probably don't know where that's at, unless, of course, you know Musket Drive. And it has little to show for the 50 years that it's been there. So I want to ask, I have a brick and mortar home, and I paid almost $2,700 in property taxes for a half acre, 1.5 bedroom home. Now, I'm aware of the other discounts that I can get or pursue. Some I'm not old enough for, some I can do as a veteran, but at no time ever should a small half acre pay $2,700. That is just crazy to me. Part of what I would like to talk to you about is there was an article in the Putnam County paper, February 20th, 2025. And it talks about the Senate unveils Rural Renaissance Plan. And I think that's awesome. And somewhere in there, I want to see Satsuma. I would like to see a grocery store in Satsuma. I would like to see, it talks about the veterans with hospitals and attract doctors. You know how hard it is to find somebody up here for the VA? I got to go to Gainesville, got to go to Jax, Ocala. Oh my God, get them in. Speak for us.
Do you use the clinic that's here in Putnam?
I haven't had the opportunity yet. It says here to do boosting projects, rural road projects. I live on a country road. Dirt. Be nice to have even some some lights, some, street lights, and how about pavement? 50 years without nothing. 50% of it towards public safety. How about certifying our fire volunteer? My insurance would go down if they weren't a volunteer fire department. It says here in the article, Florida is the envy of the nation, and we won't leave our rural communities behind. I can assure you, Satsuma has been left behind. It is not just a place that exists between East Palatka and Walaka. You know, we want some attention too.
Yes, ma'am.
And in that,
Okay.
you guys, in your due diligence, let's get rid of the property taxes, because I could use that $2,700. Thanks for your time.
So I will say on the Rural Renaissance Bill, that is being championed by Senate President Ben Albritton, and when we were in Tallahassee, we met with him, fully supported his bill. And however, if you've been paying attention to what's going on in Tallahassee, it's not going as usual. So it's a little bit contentious in Tallahassee right now, and I can tell you that all 5 of these commissioners grew up in Putnam County. We love it. We've all lived in rural areas, on dirt roads ourselves, family members on dirt roads in different parts of the county. And we understand where you're coming from. That's why we're in the seats, to try to help these kind of situations. Mr. Grimes?
I would like, I would like to address the fire rescue portion of that.
Yeah, please,
if you
and the
don't mind.
insurance while you're
The
there.
insurance ratings are a 5 countywide, okay? And I would like to point out that Satsuma wasn't left behind. Satsuma was the first career fire station in Putnam County. The sign still says volunteer, and I do understand that. But that was the first 24-hour station in the county, was established in Satsuma. So I think, because that was one of those areas that is kind of very well to be able to deploy to a very broad geographic area. It's pretty close to Dunn's Creek. It's pretty close to Pomona Park. It's pretty close to Wielaka. So they are staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, by an ambulance and a career fire engine in Satsuma. So that really has no driving factor on your insurance rating, to be honest with you. But we do have a county-wide rating that does play a factor in, because a volunteer fire department can get an ISO Class 1. It's all dependent upon water, manpower, and your communication system, of which we scored very well in all but water, right? As we've talked about this morning, the infrastructure. The rest of it, your fire department did well, your communication center did well. It's just we have a struggle in the rural world with water, right? It's getting water everywhere, and it's a very expensive task.
And we have more water opportunities down in that area, correct?
That is 100% correct, yes, ma'am.
Yes, and then in that area, we had bought, years ago, what was the ISO rating, do you know?
Satsuma has always maintained a pretty good ISO, even underneath the volunteer system.
Okay.
Satsuma, just speaking of them as general, was a 4 or 5. I mean, it's maintained that delegation. Now, right up the road, and I'm not sure because a lot of times, and this happens even in the mail world, Dunn's Creek is considered Satsuma, right? So sometimes when they see their bill or their insurance rating may come as a Satsuma address. Now, there was a portion of Dunn's Creek up till we did our ISO 2 years ago that was an ISO Class 10, which was not even a recognized fire department. So that may be a portion of what you potentially could see as a savings to your insurance was when we went through that. We went from a 10 just across the Dunn's Creek Bridge down to a 5 countywide.
Right. All right, thank you for those comments. All right, Susan Epting? Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Susan Epting. I live at 117 Swanee Hunting Club Road, which is a Class 2 road, and that is why I'm here. When we had the 2 hurricanes, ended in November, the road was completely washed out, and I went to the Public Works office. The girls are fantastic. They put in work orders, one work order to bring the roadway into driving condition, which they did shortly thereafter. The second work order, and both of these work orders were put in as FEMA. The second work order was to do a drainage survey because all the sand that had been on the road, mostly all of it, washed off, and it's in the culvert alongside of the road. It's still there, and it's blocking the passageway of the water into Harvey Creek. So I've made numerous trips to the Public Works office to find out about the work orders. I went in February no work was done. Sometime after that, the work order was taken out. I went again in March. April, I inquired with the supervisor, and he said that he would meet me. April 16th, I called. He said he'd be out of the office. April 21st, I went there, which is on a Monday. He told me he'd be back in the office on a Monday. I went there, and I asked him if he could come out and look at the road and see what I'm talking about, because the water, when hurricane season is again, that water is going to wash out the road again. It's already started with the heavy rain we had the last few days. So he told me he'd be out that week. He hasn't come out and he hasn't called me back. So I'm here to ask if you can please have someone come out and look at the drainage along that road. I asked Steve, when I spoke to him on the 21st, I said, what are we supposed to do? What's the resolution here? Do we just call up and you come out and you dump more sand every time it washes out? And he said he'll come out and look at it, but I'm still waiting. That was April 21st. And I need somebody to give me some sort of resolution for myself and the other neighbors, because if it washes out, I mean, we have deliveries of, just like anybody else, UPS, FedEx, God forbid an ambulance needs to get in, they wouldn't be able to, because it was pretty bad. So that's all I'm asking for.
So for clarity, you're able to get in and out now, right, as it is right now?
Yes, it's starting to deteriorate along the sides because the water, it can't wash through. There's one drainage pipe, but all the water doesn't make it to there. It'll have to come over the roadway. So
Okay.
I'd just like somebody to look at it.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Donald Barber.
How we doing?
Hey, thank you for being here today.
Appreciate it. My name is Donald Barber. I moved to Putnam County in '91. I've lived here, graduated high school here, served in the Army and National Guard here. I raised a family of 2 great children here. They also went to school and graduated here. I coach Little League baseball and softball here. I currently own a small state contracting business based out of Interlaken that generates roughly $1 million in annual income revenue. I hire local, I shop local, and I support local. Along with this, I'm in the planning phase for my next home, which when completed, will be valued at approximately $500,000 or so. It will be a substantial investment in this community for me. Several months ago, I came before this board to ask for a fine reduction on a property I purchased where I plan to build my new home, located 1 street over from my current address. The fines levied were due to unpaid code enforcement violations accrued by the previous owner. My request was subsequently denied, and I was left with no option except to pay the fines. So I did my part as a citizen of this county. I paid the fines and moved forward with my plans, which brings me here today. Meanwhile, as I continue making plans for my new home, someone constructed a tent city in the vacant lot next door to this property. Another individual constructed a hobbit house across the street of what will become my front gate location.
What did you call it?
A hobbit house.
Hobbit.
They power these dwellings with portable generators that run constantly. And let's not discuss the issues faced with the call of nature on a daily basis. Our town has become inundated with tents, campers, sheds, broke down buses, tree houses doubling as homes. The sounds of the birds chirping have been replaced with the noise of Kohler motors. The scent of the wildflowers have been blanketed by the smell of burning plastic from household garbage they set aflame once the stench from the mini landfill on their property becomes too much for even them to endure. I do, however, commend the architectural genius it takes to design an outdoor shower from a hanging bucket and a used SpongeBob shower curtain. It does add an element of pizzazz. As an understanding citizen of Putnam County, I'm fully aware that the code enforcement department is overwhelmed. The Putnam County Sheriff's Office is inundated with calls of noise complaints from that delightful sound of generators. I have spoken in the past with Larry Harvey about my concerns. It was a good conversation, but did not feel there was an idea of resolve on the horizon. I also understand as a citizen that it appears to not be a concern for this board, and I understand that it is, but as citizens, we don't feel that, okay? The problem isn't in your backyard or next door to your house. It is ours. And I've spoke with many citizens here in this county about this issue before I came here today. I also understand that this issue plagues many towns, cities, and states. While I don't fault those trying to survive in an era where housing prices have skyrocketed, affordable housing is no longer a viable option, I do take issue with sitting back what seems to be little action to find a resolution for this ever-growing issue that is plaguing our community. And because of this, I have decided to relocate to Marion County to build my house and my business. However, I do have an idea today. Why not allow the people on these properties to have power? Charge $500 for an electric permit to provide a 100-amp power pole. The permit's only good for 6 months, and to renew the next 6 months, there will be another inspection of the property to verify that they have adequate service for waste such as porta potties or whatever the county deems sufficient. Verify living conditions are manageable. Ensure the property is being maintained properly. Inspect to make sure that there are not 6 cars, 4 broken boats, and a golf cart hanging from a tree. With this permit request, a waste garbage tax would then be connected to the property to allow garbage pickup each week, because that's also been an issue. This helps with the environmental impact while simultaneously generating additional revenue for the county. Use the $1,000 generated each year off that quarter acre and invest it into affordable housing options. If we can make this happen, at least it may reduce the code enforcement problem that they're having. And let's not forget the sheriff's office will have time to focus on actual concerns instead of dealing with complaints about noisy generators singing all night long. This idea also allows a pathway for people to move forward. Using their tax refunds, they can then get a permit for a well, they can get a permit for a septic, and then they can use that piece of property that they've bought the well, they've bought the septic, they've already got that part done. They use that piece of property as a down payment and collateral to get a manufactured home. Because the problem right now is people can't afford all of it at the same time in a package deal because the value of it doesn't reach the finance portion of it. And I know this personally. You know, I've seen people go through the same issue. You know, but if they could work on it a little bit at a time and use their tax money, get the well, get the septic, then take and say, hey, I have this, I bought this, this is paid for, let me use this as a down payment for my manufactured home. Now the banks will work with them, you know. It's simply about understanding the struggles that everyday families work through. I'm only one person. This is just one idea.
May I ask you a question, Mr. Barber?
Sure.
On these ones that are in your neighborhood, have you actually called them into codes enforcement?
Why?
Because that's the only way we can do something.
Oh.
So the way the Florida statute reads is they changed the statute. And the statute says that a person has to make a formal complaint and their name and address has to go in the record because the person who is the property owner has a right to know who their accuser is. I didn't make the rule. I don't like it.
And I understand that. And I don't fault the people for trying to survive and for the people who live there. That's the best that they can do.
Yes, sir.
I don't fault them for that, and I'm not upset with that part of it. Let's give them power. You know, let's provide them with just a 100-amp power pole so that they can run a light, so that the generator's not running all night long, okay? That helps out with law enforcement as far as the noise ordinance goes. And then it also gives them a place to live, and it allows them, but then it also puts inspectors, county inspectors, on their property every 6 months to make sure that the waste that they're using, because there is a family out there, they have a porta potty, and that porta potty service comes out to their house weekly for that. Okay, that can be a stipulation if you want power. You know, and a $500 permit for 6 months of power, they'll pay it because it's cheaper than a generator. You know, let them get the power for that pole, you know, to power their tent, to power their camper, to whatever it is. But then also that gives them the ability to move on and say, okay, well, I want to do a well. Well, a well is $15,000.
Yeah.
Okay, but they save up the money, they get their well. Okay, now that investment's done. Then a septic system. Well, now we have the new septic systems. Those are going to cost $15,000. When you add that together with the purchase of the property and the purchase of a mobile home, it far exceeds the value of what can be brought in. So the bank's like, we're not financing you $250,000 on a mobile home that's only worth $110,000 because you had to add all this stuff to it.
Yes,
It's
sir.
a pathway forward, you know, but at the same time, it allows inspectors to go out and say, look, we'll give you the permit for your power, but you got to clean this mess up. You can't have all of this going on, or you can't have this. I mean, you can put the regulations in there and say, okay, we'll give you this. And with that permit, now you can assess the taxes for landfill. Because right now, the people we had that conversation, you know, about garbage pickup, okay? Now, the garbage man is picking up garbage for these people, okay? They're not getting paid for it. They don't pay taxes for their garbage pickup, but their garbage is getting picked up, okay? And I want their garbage to get picked up because what do they do with it if it doesn't get picked up?
Right.
I know, they burn it, okay? How is that good for our environment to be sitting out there burning plastic bags of garbage and milk jugs and, you know, it doesn't benefit us in any direction. The people are not gonna go away. The problem is only gonna get worse. The only thing we can do at this time is embrace it, move forward with it, and come up with a plan to help them to maybe move forward in the future versus just saying, you're just not gonna get no power. They're still gonna have power. It's called generators.
Thank you. All right, are there any other public comments to come before the board? All right, with that, we'll go into appointments, starting with Commissioner Pelletier.
I knew you were coming this way. Madam Chair, I
Well,
have,
no, listen, Commissioner Alexander always says I start with him for A, so I was trying to switch it up a little bit.
Madam Chair, I have none.
Okay. Commissioner Alexander?
Quick question, on the library board, I have a vacancy there. I have a person that has expressed an interest in taking that, but I know some of them, they have to live in my district, and some of them they don't. Is that one of those?
I think that one does. Laura, do you know the answer to that? Yes, she'll find out.
Okay, other than that, I have none.
All right,
We'll go back to it.
Yeah, we'll come back to you. Commissioner Newbold?
I'm afraid I don't have any. I am diligently working on my last two. I hope to have some progress there, but today I have none.
No problem. Commissioner Harvey?
I have none, Madam Chair.
And I have none. Ms. Laura? We'll try to get out and look at that Swanee Hunting Club Road as well. So that was one of the public comments.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Fantastic. I would like to appoint Mrs. Lee Duran to the library board. Did she have any decision-making ability?
We'll have to get back with you on that. We'll get back with you on that, Commissioner. Yeah. All right, with that, we'll move into comments. Clerk of Courts, Matt Reynolds.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'd just like to reiterate again, very proud of, the audit being presented timely this year, and again, no findings from any of the constitutionals or the board. Can't reiterate that enough, stress that enough, that's quite an accomplishment. Very
Yes,
proud
sir.
of that. And again, thanks to staff, thanks to James Moore, thanks to county staff, county administration for bringing that all together this year.
Good job.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Good job. County Attorney Rich Commando.
I don't have anything, Madam Chair. Thank you.
County Administrator Terry Suggs.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Great meeting today. A lot of good discussion on a lot of very sensitive items, but I think a good discussion nonetheless. And also, just echo what everybody's already said as far as the audit's concerned. I think James Warren and company did a great job this year. Mr. Reynolds' staff, as he's already pointed out, has done a great job. But I want to also personally thank our side of the ledger over here. Several years ago, we went back and redid a lot of our purchasing agreements and things of that nature, our policies. And I think you're seeing the results of those today with your second audit, and this one with absolutely no comments on it. So kudos to staff and everyone who does that. So I just want to say, again, how proud I am of our staff, and we do have a good working relationship with Mr. Reynolds' office. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Grimes, you know, if y'all didn't notice, Mr. Grimes now has his own button up here. Oh, and so now we get to call specifically instead of just on Julian or JR.
That is correct, and
Go ahead.
thank you for the opportunity. Pastor Brunkowski hit it this morning. There was a tragedy yesterday in East Palatka. As we're praying for the family, I ask for you guys to also pray for our responders that went there. Those are the ones that you don't never want to go to as a responder. I can promise you, I've walked in their shoes. That is not the one you want to be at. But as you can pray for healing for that family, pray for healing for them as well. I would also like to thank all of our community partners as that incident went down yesterday, from our sheriff's office to our fire rescue folks to the neighbors to everybody that made the best out of a very tragic situation. So I would just like to tell you our folks did a phenomenal job. Thank our hospital staff. They did a great job. I can't express how proud I am of our responders, how professional they handled that scene, because that was probably one of the, just the ones you don't want to go to. But as you could, just keep them in your thoughts and prayers, and thank you. So that's all I had to say. But I just wanted to publicly tell them that super proud of them as a county department.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Ms. Young.
Just following up on the audit, want to say that it is a collaborative effort between us, and Ryan and I work back and forth, and neither side of the seesaw works unless both sides of the seesaw works. And so Ryan sat out there the whole time, and I just want to tell her thank you. And we work back and forth, and sometimes we both scratch our heads at each other, but at the end of the day, we try to make it all balance. And so there's an equal importance on both sides.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you. All right, Commissioner comments, starting with Commissioner Alexander.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Back to A is for first.
Well, I'm used to that, and sitting at the front of the class, I got to do a lot of that too as a child.
Not because of A, though, right?
No, not because of A, just so I could be within the teacher's reach. But as you guys have heard me say many times, we possess a diverse skill set and diverse backgrounds at the dais currently. Every one of us is from Putnam County. We like to call ourselves lifers, and some of the questions we ask may be difficult, but I would like to commend our chairman with her real estate background, because I feel confident in her abilities and her representing us in these real estate transactions that we are going to encounter moving forward, and I want to thank her for that. And also, Mr. Harvey, I know you've been working hard in Tallahassee regarding trying to secure the funding for our expansion, and also thank you. So that's where I'm at today.
Wow, thank you. I appreciate that a bunch. Commissioner Palacier.
Couple things. I'll piggyback on what he said. Having you on the board with your real estate background is certainly a huge asset when it comes to looking at things like this.
Thank you.
That's definitely in our favor. One, I want to apologize for my absence at our last meeting. I had some surgery done, and I'm well on the road to recovery. I'm not ready to run a foot race, but it won't be long. Y'all hear me every few meetings. I like to, when somebody steps up and really goes above and beyond, I like to give them that pat on the back, and I want to give Putnam Community Hospital a pat on the back. I received Class A 5 Gold Star service there, and I'd get tired of people on our hospital this and our hospital that. It was an outstanding experience. They called me the next day at home, wanted to check on me. My doctor was wonderful. I can't say enough good things about those people. They really, really took good care of me, and I have no problem going to that hospital in dire need. Other than that, I don't have anything else, I don't believe.
Have they opened the second floor yet?
I don't know. I was an outpatient. I was in and out.
But it's going to be a grand time when they do. Woohoo! Did you get to view that?
I took the tour.
Yeah, very nice. We're excited about that.
Yeah.
Commissioner Newbold.
Just a couple of quickies. We've gotten our comprehensive financial report for 2024. We just had our audit results. I appreciate the reviewers' comments on their relationship with our staff. That is important. There are times when staffs and auditors don't jive well, and we're fortunate to have that good relationship. And we have seen other municipalities and communities having, other financial reporting issues. We are blessed with a great team and a good track record. So thank y'all for that. I swear I didn't pay Donald Barber to come here and talk about his issue, but that type of issue is on my mind. It ties in with this RV land development code verbiage that we're trying to pull into. I just have a feeling we're going to have more people coming before us with similar issues, and I'm going to urge us as a body to fully tackle these issues quickly. Care of premises, the capability of our code enforcement apparatus. I think we've got leaps to make there, and I hope we'll keep that front and center of our minds as we run forward. And that's all I have.
Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Barber was right. There's no doubt that we see this in every neighborhood in Putnam County. The problem is they don't own the land in a lot of cases, and they're just squatters on somebody else's land. And I have talked to some of the legislators about changing that law a little bit, allowing for us to go out there and do something about this, because it really does hurt all of the county. I'm very sympathetic to that. I realized, we started in a single wide, as some of y'all did, and moved to a double wide, and you just kind of grow up with it. And but right now the prices are so high, I don't know how people can live out there. But that's no exception. We don't need people living on somebody else's land or parking their places on somebody else's land. I do want to thank Matt and Julianne and Mr. Suggs and all the staff for the audit. A lot of hard years have paved that road to get to where we're at today. But I can tell you, it's such a blessing to sit there and look at all the unmodified opinions on all the constitutionals in our office. And Julianne, I think you said it right when you said, I never heard that phrase that a seesaw doesn't work unless both people are on it, but you're right. If I'm sitting there and no one else is on the other side, I'm sitting on the ground. And I appreciate that, because it is daunting. It's a task that the legislators throw different things at y'all and have to do it. And but it makes us better, and it makes us more accountable to our citizens, and that's what we should be about. So I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. The dialogue today that we had on the purchase of the property, I think, was one of the best dialogues we've had in a long time. We are bound by sunshine. We can't go in the back room, and we're not going to go in the back room and have discussions. So we have them out here, and we learn things as we go. We learn that this could be something more than just that, but the public doesn't hear that. They hear one thing. So I was very encouraged today to start this process and see what we're going to look like. We all knew we had to grow up out there. We all know that East Palatka is very minimal on high acreage property. That's elevation high. We've all been through the fields when the hurricanes came through and you're driving through water up in your door. We've all seen that. So, this is the spot that we needed, and this is the spot that we can grow in, and I believe good things happen there at that location. I also want to say yesterday's tragedy is a tragedy. I gave a speech one time where first responders rush in when we rush out. And that speech will always be a part of me because I have family members that rush in when I rush out. I don't know anything to do as far as helping you on the side of the road if you've had a heart attack, helping you in a burning building, other than to do what I'm told to do. But I can tell you, these men and women train all the time for these scenarios. And no, they don't train for this. They don't train for, what do I do afterward? Do I go cut the property because I need some tractor time? Or how do I unwind from hearing or seeing what I just saw? How do you do that? So yes, our prayers should be with those folks every day, not just today, because, again, that pager goes off, and they drop that fork, and they drop that cup, no matter what they're doing. They drop their family time, and they jump into that truck, and they take off, and their family's praying that they'll come home. So we should pray every day for our first responders in this county. And that's the end of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I am not going to reiterate some of the comments you made, my fellow colleagues, but I certainly agree with everything that was stated today. A couple of things I want to talk about. You know, we're going to have some more tough conversations. We're going to have some serious conversations, and those conversations regarding the RV, the tent camping, that has to take place, which is why I suggested that we just move that LDC out a little bit. And I would challenge each one of you to look at and read. It's tedious, I get it. I got the whole book in my office. Read and learn about the code, learn about what the current process is. Let's all do our homework as best we can to know what do we need to do about this going forward, because it's a double-edged sword. So, you know, we kick people out of campers and all of a sudden they're in tents. We kick them out of tents and now all of a sudden they're on the streets, and we've increased our homeless population. So there's a lot of, but then we also have to be mindful of the other citizens that are paying property taxes, and what's their effect and how are they being affected. So it's a very serious conversation we're going to have. I think the LDC is what sort of brought it up, those changes, but we're going to have to figure out, do we allow it? What do we allow now, and what do we want the future of Putnam to be with RVs and camping and affordable housing, and a lot of dialogue is going to take place when we go to have that further discussion. So please look into that, meet with your staff, meet with codes enforcement. I have to do that myself, which is another reason why I said I need to just wait a little bit and take a breather on that. And I want to meet with codes enforcement and have a meeting, and I hope you guys do too, to see, you know, is there something that we can do in our current codes or make it stronger? Just do whatever it is we can do to make our county safer. Two things that we always, I asked Mr. Barber, has he called it in? And that's one of the things that our code enforcement and really as elected officials we're faced with. People have to call it in and they have to report it. Again, that's not something that we chose. That was something the legislature chose. And so people call and complain, and that should be our first question. Have you called it in? Have you reported it? And if they're not willing to report it, then that's a problem. And so then how is it? Codes enforcement just isn't allowed really to go out and arbitrarily pick so-and-so's piece of property and go on it, unless, as far as I know, that hasn't changed. Okay, that hasn't changed. I didn't think it did. And the other thing, same way with dog bite cases, citizens have to be willing to sign the complaints. So we go out there with dog bite cases, and the neighbors mad as heck that somebody's dog come on their property and they ate their chickens. But that same person won't fill out the form. That same person won't sign the form. And if I could send any message to our citizens, I would say, please, please, help us help you. And the only way we can help you is if you're willing to sign those complaint forms, if you're willing to call in those codes cases. I know nobody wants to be a bad neighbor. I know it. I grew up in a community. You don't tell on each other. I get it. But at the same time, if it gets that bad, please do it. Have somebody else do it. But it needs to be signed. And that's the only way we can help. We have rules and policies in place, but we can't effectively do our jobs as the county as a whole if people aren't willing to sign those things. So those are my comments on that. Got in my box a little bit. I just wanted to also comment on April 30th, we held our first Safe State Road Safety Task Force meeting. It's, of course, an advisory board. You guys have heard about that. We're hoping to come up with a list of short-term and long-term solutions to bring back to the Board of County Commissioners for consideration. That is an advisory board, and anything that we do, recommendations would have to come back to the Board of County Commissioners. I am waiting on FDOT. They have looked at our video and they've reviewed it, and they've come up with some things that they are already working on. So I'd like to hear back and have them come to our next meeting and to be able to set that date. So I have not set the next date yet for that reason, but we will be in the near future. And I also want to thank the Putnam County Chamber of Commerce. They are diligently working on a community calendar and sharing of events in our community, and I think that's very much needed in our community. We should have a one-stop shop at the chamber for everything that's going on in the community, and they have definitely stepped up and are trying to work on those things. And let's see, do I have anything else? Oh, impact fees are at our next meeting, so some more homework for you. Please read and read and read. Lots of comments will be made about impact fees, good, bad, or indifferent. Again, we have to plan for the future of this county, and that's why we're having those discussions. So with that being said, is there anything else to come before the board? All right, with nothing else, this meeting's adjourned.